Chapter 11:13. At this moment, Tang Ao was still watching quietly from afar. This was because Tang Ao realized that he was not the only one watching from afar. On a rime ice tree opposite Tang Ao, there was also a warrior in white clothes hiding. Because of the distance, Tang Ao could not see her face clearly, but Tang Ao was sure that it was a woman. Moreover, this person's cultivation was not bad, because she was not far from the place where the warriors were attacking the giant bear. No one had discovered her existence at such a close distance. This meant that this woman was either very good at concealment, or her cultivation was far beyond ordinary people. If she really was good at concealment, Tang Ao would not have been able to discover her from so far away. Therefore, Tang Ao judged that this woman's cultivation must be very shocking. At this moment, Tang Ao still did not know this woman's purpose, so Tang Ao did not dare to show himself. Whether this woman was in cahoots with the two children or with the warriors, Tang Ao was clearly not in a good place. Die for me. At this moment, a warrior was the first to come back to his senses. Dragging his mace, he swung it at the giant bear's head. At this moment, because the giant bear had lost too much blood, its consciousness was a little fuzzy. There was no way it could dodge this attack. The two little girls who ran out of the snow also closed their eyes in despair. They were too weak, and there was no way they could help Xiaobai at this time. However, this terrifying mace did not hit the giant bear's head in the end. At this critical moment, a snow-white figure flashed out and slapped the mace away. As expected, Tang Ao had vaguely felt that this woman in white was silently watching the two children and the white bear. As expected, after the white bear was in danger, this woman immediately appeared. Although the spiritual power fluctuations on her body were not very obvious, Tang Ao could still see that her cultivation was at the peak of life and death realm level 6. The reason why the spiritual power around her body was not obvious was because her spiritual power was pure and reserved. This was the symbol of a strong person. Tang Ao had seen a lot of 6th level life and death realm warriors, but Tang Ao was sure that this lady in white was the most powerful one among all the 6th level life and death realm warriors that Tang Ao had ever seen. The sudden appearance of the white-clothed woman naturally caused the martial artists surrounding White Bear to panic. Especially the scene of the white-clothed woman sending the martial artist with the mace flying with a single palm strike. It caused quite a stir in everyone's hearts. "Who are you?" A martial artist with a scarlet beard mustered up his courage and asked the woman in white. However, the white-robed woman only glanced at him indifferently. Then, she sent out a palm strike, and the red-bearded man was frozen into an ice sculpture. Seeing this martial skill, Tang Ao was shocked. This martial skill was the profound cold chi that Su Ning had taught Tang Ao. Because Tang Ao had awakened the sky polar eyes, the profound cold chi was rarely used. However, when Tang Ao saw this profound cold chi again, he immediately recognized it. The profound cold chi that this woman in white used was indeed the profound cold chi, but Tang Ao knew that this was not Su Ning. No matter how fast Su Ning's cultivation progressed, she could not reach the life and death realm level 6 in such a short time. After freezing the red-bearded martial artist, the white-clothed woman coldly looked at the other martial artists. These people immediately shivered in fear and then disappeared as fast as they could. Chapter 11:14. After the woman in white left, Tang Ao also jumped down from the rime ice and came to the white bear and the two children. After seeing Tang Ao, the white bear let out a low growl, and the two little girls were a little afraid. "You don't have to be afraid. I have nothing to do with that group of people just now," Tang Ao said as he took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to one of the little girls. This porcelain bottle contains Yulu ointment. You can apply it to its wound, and it will stop the bleeding. The little girl listened to Tang Ao's words and hesitated. Obviously, she did not believe Tang Ao. However, after seeing the white bear's abdomen bleeding, she gritted her teeth and poured out a small amount of ointment in her hand. Then, she looked at Tang Ao blankly. Tang Ao knew that the little girl was asking him how to use the Yulu ointment. Tang Ao smiled kindly. You could directly apply the Yulu ointment to its wound, and it will stop the bleeding. Its injury is not serious, but it will be dangerous if it bleeds too much. The reason why Tang Ao wanted to help the two children was firstly out of sympathy, and secondly, Tang Ao wanted to ask the two children for directions. Tang Ao felt that the Frost Canyon was very likely to be in this place. However, this area was extremely vast. If Tang Ao had no direction to look for, he might not be able to find the Spirit Ice Fruit Forest even if he searched for a few years. After one of the children applied the Yulu ointment to the white bear's wound, the white bear's hideous wound began to heal slowly, and the bleeding slowed down. Seeing that the ointment given by Tang Ao was effective, the two children did not hesitate. The two of them wiped the white bear's wound together and then applied the ointment given by Tang Ao. The white bear also knew that Tang Ao did not have any malicious intentions. Although it was still a little wary of Tang Ao, it was not as repulsive as it was at first. Thank you. The older child covered the Yulu ointment and handed it to Tang Ao. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Tang Ao pushed the Yulu ointment back. I'll give this to you. What's your relationship with that white-clothed martial artist? She's big sister Bing Yu, the younger girl said without thinking. However, before she could finish, the older girl covered her mouth. Clearly, Bing Yu's information could not be told to outsiders. Tang Ao saw them like this and did not ask about Bing Yu information. Instead, he took out the Spirit Ice Fruit Forest map and asked the two, "Do you know where this place is?" Seeing that Tang Ao didn't continue to inquire about Frost Moon, the two children also relaxed and came over to look at the map in Tang Ao's hand. The two used their soul remembrance to look at the map and saw the valley on the map. However, to Tang Ao's disappointment, the two children shook their heads after looking at the map. Obviously, they have never seen this place before. Then do you know if there are any dangerous places here? Tang Ao thought to himself. If he guessed correctly, Frost Canyon really was a dangerous place. It was normal that the two children had never been there. However, after Tang Ao asked, the two children still shook their heads. It seemed that they were too young and didn't know anything. Unable to get any useful information, Tang Ao did not continue to stay. In 3 months, Tang Ao still had to meet up with Chu Yuqing. Therefore, in these 3 months, Tang Ao had to hurry and find the Spirit Ice Fruit Forest. Because his strength had been greatly damaged, Tang Ao had encountered many dangers in the first 3 regions of Xidagarba Cemetery. Tang Ao felt that if he could not recover his strength as soon as possible, he should not go to the later regions. Chapter 11:15. At Tang Ao, Chu Shuahan had been carrying the little fox while searching for spiritual herbs, but for some reason, the little fox suddenly started running. Chu Shuahan thought that the little fox had found some treasure, but after following it all the way, Chu Shuahan realized that the little fox had picked up the scent of Tang Ao. At this moment, the little fox was drooling disappointingly. Chu Shuahan felt that her face had been thrown away by this gluttonous little fellow. Tang Ao thought that the little fox was quite interesting. At this moment, the little fox was scratching Tang Ao with its little paws and pointing at its stomach from time to time, as if telling Tang Ao that it was hungry. "Didn't I just give you something to eat? Why are you hungry again, you little bastard?" Chu Shuahan put her hands on her waist and questioned the little fox. However, the little fox completely ignored Chu Shuahan's words and looked pitifully at Tang Ao. Naturally, Tang Ao knew that the little thing wanted to eat spirit beast pills again. Immediately, Tang Ao took out a spirit beast pill and gave it to it. However, what surprised Tang Ao was that the little fox did not take the spirit beast pill. Instead, it kept gesturing in the air with its 2 little paws. As if worried that Tang Ao would not understand, the little thing suddenly jumped out of Tang Ao's arms and onto the ground. Then, it started gesturing as if it was refining pills. Tang Ao was puzzled at first, but he soon understood. This little thing was actually asking for the Spirit Beast Pills formula. Tang Ao did not know whether to laugh or cry. This little fox did not know how to speak, so it should still be in its infancy. However, the little fox's super high intelligence was clearly inconsistent with its age. Even Chu Shuahan was speechless. However, the Spirit Beast Pill's formula was not very precious to Tang Ao. Therefore, Tang Ao did not hesitate and directly took out the Spirit Beast Pill's formula and handed it to the little fox. After the little fox received the formula, it happily jumped into Chu Shuahan's arms. Chu Shuahan could not help but roll her eyes at it. This little fellow was so cunning at such a young age. What would it be like when it grew up? Moreover, this little fox was a female and could transform in the future. She knew how to use the word cute to deceive people now. But in the future, she might become a femme fatale. Of course, Little Fox didn't know what Chu Shuahan was thinking. If it knew, Little Fox would definitely cry out in injustice. It was just greedy and wanted to eat that delicious Spirit Beast elixir. How could it have any other thoughts? However, Chu Shuahan was still a little curious as she took the pill formula from the little fox's hands. After seeing the herbs required, Chu Shuahan was surprised and said, "Tang Ao, where did you get this pill formula from? Who raises a spirit pet like this?" Chu Shuahan pouted and said with dissatisfaction. After seeing the pill formula, Chu Shuahan finally understood why the little fox was so obsessed with Tang Ao's Spirit Beast pill. This was because Tang Ao's Spirit Beast elixirs were all concocted with top-notch grade 6 spirit herbs. Ordinary Spirit Beast elixirs were mostly made with grade 3 spirit herbs. Occasionally, grade 4 spirit herbs would be used, but it was very rare. Chu Shuahan did a rough calculation. If such a Spirit Beast elixir were to be sold, it would be worth at least 100,000 mid-grade snow pearls. Just as Tang Ao was thinking about how to answer Chu Shuahan's question, Little Fox took out a light green fruit from the storage ring on its little paw and gave it to Tang Ao. The moment he saw this fruit, Tang Ao was stunned. This light green fruit was the size of a fist. It was the spirit ice fruit that Tang Ao had been thinking about day and night. He had been searching for a long time, but to no avail. Chapter 11:16. Being pulled by Chu Shuahan by its furry ears, the little fox immediately became obedient. Its little paws trembled as it took back the light green spirit ice fruit from Tang Ao's hand. Then it carefully handed the spirit ice fruit back to Chu Shuahan. Chu Shuahan became even angrier when she saw its actions. How can you take back something you gave to someone else? Upon hearing Chu Shuahan's words, the little fox fainted. She didn't know what to do, and she didn't know what to do either. Luckily, Tang Ao helped it out. "Miss Chu, did you come across the spirit ice fruit forest in the Xitigarbis cemetery?" This was the question that Tang Ao was most concerned about. If Chu Shuahan really did come across the spirit ice fruit forest, then Tang Ao really needed to ask for its location. In the battle back then, Tang Ao had been heavily injured. His spirit C and soul C had been shattered, and his meridians had all been corroded. Now that a year and a half had passed, Tang Ao's external injuries had all healed, but his internal injuries were still very serious. Now that half of Tang Ao's soul C was shattered, his spirit C situation was even worse. Because of this, Tang Ao's strength hadn't been able to recover for a long time. Spirit Ice Fruit Forest. Chu Shuahan was speechless as she looked at Tang Ao. Did Tang Ao think that the spirit ice fruit was cabbage? There were large patches of it growing together, and he could have as many as he wanted. I've been in the Xitigarbis cemetery for a long time, and I've only come across 2 spirit ice fruit trees. No, it should be 3. The little bastard didn't tell me about the other spirit ice fruit tree. Chu Shuahan said as she looked at the little fox with an unfriendly gaze. The little fox was a bit frightened by its master's gaze, so it hid behind Tang Ao. Hearing Chu Shuahan say this, Tang Ao was a bit disappointed. He thought that Chu Shuahan had found the Frost Canyon, but he didn't think that Chu Shuahan had only come across 2 spirit ice fruit trees along the way. Seeing Tang Ao's disappointment, Chu Shuahan asked with some doubt, "Why are you looking for the spirit ice fruit? Don't tell me you want to use it to refine a pill?" If it was someone else, Chu Shuahan might not ask such a stupid question, but facing Tang Ao, Chu Shuahan felt that Tang Ao might really do such a thing. After all, Tang Ao was a weirdo who used top-grade spiritual grass to refine spiritual beast pellets. Even if Tang Ao did such a thing, it was still within Chu Shuahan's acceptable range. Tang Ao was speechless. The fact that the spirit ice fruit couldn't be used for alchemy was a well-known fact in the ice-snow plane. No matter how capable he was, it was impossible for him to use the spirit ice fruit for alchemy. Spirit ice Tang Ao had a thought. Oh, Tang, ice Ao. Shuahan Tang was surprised. Tang Ao Shuahan. Ling. The reason why the spirit ice fruit couldn't be used for alchemy was that its medicinal properties conflicted with the majority of known medicinal herbs. Coincidentally, Tang Ao had discovered a brand new spirit herb not long ago. Moreover, the medicine was very gentle. Tang Ao guessed that the cooling fruit could be used to balance the spirit ice fruit, so that the spirit ice fruit could be used to refine pills. No matter what kind of spiritual medicine it was, it could only be used to the fullest after being refined into a pill. Hey, Tang Ao. Chu Shuahan waved her hand in front of Tang Ao. Chu Shuahan didn't know what happened to Tang Ao. Why did he suddenly stop talking? Miss Chu, can you lend me a few of your spirit ice fruits? Tang Ao looked at Chu Shuahan expectantly. If he could really use the spirit ice fruit to refine pills, the effect would be beyond Tang Ao's imagination. Chapter 11:17. How did you know that I was going to use the spiritual ice fruit to refine pills? Tang Ao was surprised by Chu Shuahan's words. After all, Tang Ao just had this idea. How did Chu Shuahan know about it before he said it? It's none of your business. It's fine if you don't want it. Chu Shuahan retracted her hand. Tang Ao was worried that Chu Shuahan would suddenly give the spiritual ice fruit to him. So Tang Ao hurriedly took the spiritual ice fruit from her hand and took out 2 refreshing fruits. After seeing the refreshing fruit, Chu Shuahan looked at Tang Ao with some doubt. What is this strange thing? What's strange about this thing? Tang Ao was speechless. The refreshing fruit looked so normal. Why did Chu Shuahan call it a strange thing? What? If you don't want the spiritual ice fruit I lent you, then I'll take it back. Chu Shuahan didn't explain and instead said something that confused Tang Ao. But when he saw that Chu Shuahan was about to take away the spirit ice fruit, Tang Ao hurriedly stopped her and then patiently explained to Chu Shuahan how he found the refreshing fruit. I was wondering why this name was so strange, so it was you who gave it. Chu Shuahan said with an inexplicable look in her eyes after listening to the origin of the refreshing fruit. If it's not called refreshing fruit, then what do you think it should be called? Tang Ao didn't dare to argue with Chu Shuahan, so he simply asked Chu Shuahan what the name of this refreshing fruit was. How would I know? Just call it refreshing fruit. In a valley thousands of miles away from Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan, a lot of beasts had been burnt black by the lightning. Some of them were Sea of Souls realm beasts, while some were life and death realm beasts. However, regardless of whether they were spiritual ocean tier or life and death tier demonic beasts, they were all killed by the white-clothed young man's tyrannical thunderbolt. Tang Ao had seen this white-clothed youth before. It was precisely the Lei Lingyun who struck Song Yu to death at the Pill Refinement Plaza back then. Compared to before, the current Lei Lingyun's aura was much more restrained. At the same time, Lei Lingyun's strength also became stronger and stronger. Young Master Lei, everything has been investigated. The mysterious person who bid for the Heavenly Star incantation was Tang Ao. A shirtless youth walked to the valley where Lei Lingyun was cultivating and said with a respectful expression, Tang Ao. Which Tang Ao? Tang Ao had obtained second place in the alchemy conference, so Lei Lingyun had a rather deep impression of Tang Ao. It's the one who obtained second place in the alchemy conference, Tang Ao. Back then, it was him. This martial artist didn't continue speaking because his next words weren't something he should have said. This person didn't say it, but Lei Lingyun knew what he wanted to say. You want to say that this Tang Ao is the person who occupied Second Brother's VIP room, but you don't know why Second Brother didn't tell you, right? Ha! The old man is interested in the heavenly star art, and so is my second brother. But now, the heavenly star art was with Tang Ao. He didn't know if this was the old man's idea or his second brother's. Interesting. Tang Ao, who was thousands of miles away, still didn't know that Lei Lingyun was investigating him. At this moment, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were discussing how to use the spirit ice fruit to refine pellets. The spirit ice fruit from Chu Shuahan was cut into 10 pieces by Tang Ao, and the 2 refreshing fruits were also cut into 10 pieces by Tang Ao. Chapter 11:18. The spiritual ice fruit and refreshing fruit's medicinal effects are inclined towards healing. These 3 pill formulas that purify spiritual energy can be excluded. Chu Shuahan thought for a moment before grabbing 3 out of the 16 pill formulas on the ground and placing them to the side. With regards to Chu Shuahan's decision, Tang Ao had no objections. Although there were 10 sets of medicinal ingredients, Tang Ao was only prepared to refine one type of pill. The success rate of refining the pill in this pill formula is the highest. Tang Ao did not continue to slowly pour out the medicinal ingredients. Instead, he directly picked up a pill formula from the ground. This pill formula used a total of 6 medicinal ingredients. It was the simplest pill formula out of all the pill formulas. Chu Shuahan was already used to Tang Ao's unconventional actions. However, she still did not approve of the pill formula that Tang Ao chose. This was because the loophole in this pill formula was too obvious. Other than the spiritual ice fruit and refreshing fruit, the medicinal effects of the other 4 spiritual ingredients were too strong. Chu Shuahan did not know about the others, but Chu Shuahan knew that if the probability of failure was to be discussed, this furnace of pills had the highest chance of failure. I think it's better like this. There are 10 sets of medicinal ingredients. We will each take 5 and see who can refine the pill first. What do you think? Chu Shuahan seemed to like to compete and proposed to Tang Ao. Tang Ao nodded in agreement. This kind of desperate method was somewhat dangerous. If he gave half of the medicinal ingredients to Chu Shuahan, he would have a higher chance of success. However, Tang Ao still felt that if the spiritual ice fruit could really be used to refine pills, this pill formula would be the most reliable. The spiritual ice fruit was not an ordinary spiritual ingredient. Of course, the spiritual ice fruit's pill formula could not be looked at with ordinary eyes. Of course, Chu Shuahan did not know that this was Tang Ao's true thoughts. Otherwise, she felt that she would not give a single set of medicinal ingredients to Tang Ao. Instead, she would carefully select 10 pill formulas to try one by one. After the medicinal ingredients were distributed, Chu Shuahan began to carefully select 5 pill formulas. As for Tang Ao, he directly opened the furnace to refine pills. Tang Ao only had 1 pill formula. As long as he refined a furnace of pills, Tang Ao would know whether this pill formula was correct or not. Tang Ao wasn't too concerned about the first batch of pills. After taking out the Farmer God Cauldron, Tang Ao tossed a portion of the ingredients into the Farmer God Cauldron. He then gathered his pill fire and started on the first batch of pills. Tang Ao first extracted the other 4 spiritual herbs, leaving the spiritual ice fruit and refreshing fruit untouched. As for the other 4 kinds of spirit grasses, Tang Ao was very familiar with them. But the cooling fruit was something that Tang Ao had discovered not long ago, and the spirit ice fruit was a kind of spirit fruit that was publicly acknowledged to be unable to be used in alchemy. Therefore, Tang Ao felt that he should extract the essence of these 2 spiritual fruits at the end. The flames in the alchemy furnace burned fiercely, and in just a moment, Tang Ao had completely refined the remaining 4 kinds of spirit grass. After extracting the 4 kinds of spirit grass, Tang Ao looked at Chu Shuahan, who was beside him. At this moment, Chu Shuahan had yet to start refining pills, but she had already selected her 5 pill formulas. After selecting the pill formulas, Chu Shuahan still relied on her understanding of spirit grass and her many years of experience in refining pills to modify the pill formulas. Even though Chu Shuahan and Tang Ao were both top-notch spirit pill masters, it was not easy to create a brand new pill formula. The existing pill formulas were not all created by the top-notch spirit pill masters. Most of the pill formulas were obtained by spirit pill masters by chance. The Shennong Emperor had left behind many pill formulas, but not all of them were created by the Shennong Emperor. Chapter 1119. Thus, Tang Ao did not give up on the idea of finding the spiritual ice fruit forest. It was just that Tang Ao had no idea where to find a spiritual ice fruit forest, so he could only try to create a brand new type of pill. This was the first time Tang Ao had created a new pill ever since he started learning the pill Tao. Moreover, the first time Tang Ao created a new pill, he challenged the difficulty. Not only did he use the unprecedented refreshing fruit, he also used the publicly acknowledged spiritual ice fruit that could not be used for pill concoction. Tang Ao was not the first person to use the spiritual ice fruit to concoct pills. Almost all the pill refiners who obtained the spiritual ice fruit in the Xitigarbha cemetery had done so. It was just that after wave of pill refiners failed, everyone understood that the spiritual ice fruit could not be used for pill concoction. Pump! An explosive sound came from the Shennong cauldron. The pills in the cauldron turned into ashes under the scorching flames. This cauldron of pills failed faster than Tang Ao had expected. In the past, Tang Ao could more or less see some problems after a failed pill concoction. But after this cauldron of pills failed, Tang Ao could not see anything. Tang Ao's failure did not affect Chu Shuahan at all. At this moment, Chu Shuahan was full of confidence as she started to concoct her first cauldron of pills. Chu Shuahan was very confident in this cauldron of pills. Different from Tang Ao's 6 types of pills, Chu Shuahan's cauldron of pills used a total of 73 types of spiritual herbs. Stalk after stalk of spiritual herbs were thrown into the cauldron. Under Chu Shuahan's meticulous control, the pure medicinal liquid within the spiritual herbs was slowly extracted by Chu Shuahan. Tang Ao did not continue to concoct pills. Instead, he watched Chu Shuahan concoct her first cauldron of pills. He did not know if it was because Chu Shuahan was very beautiful, but when she was concocting pills, she was also very attractive. The entire process was smooth and did not lack in beauty. Tang Ao was a little intoxicated by it. Finally, after 2 hours, Chu Shuahan had finished purifying all the spiritual herbs. Next, it was time to fuse the medicinal liquid and condense the pill. Chu Shuahan's little heart was pounding. She had not felt this nervous in a long time while concocting pills. After the other medicinal liquids were fused, Chu Shuahan controlled the refreshing fruit and the spiritual ice fruit to slowly fuse them together. Although the green liquid looked like it was going to disperse at any time, under Chu Shuahan's meticulous control, the 2 liquids were still slowly fusing. Not long after, a jade-like translucent liquid appeared in front of Tang Ao. Tang Ao secretly admired Chu Shuahan when he saw the medicinal liquid. His first batch of pills had exploded, but Chu Shuahan had managed to refine the medicinal liquid. But good times didn't last long. Just when Chu Shuahan was about to fuse everything together, the essence of the medicinal liquid in the furnace suddenly exploded. As the alchemy fire burned, it turned into a puff of white smoke. Although the furnace didn't explode, it still failed. No, that kins not to do this, Chu of Ling started. Although her first cauldron of pills looked better than Tang Ao's, it was still a failure. After watching you concoct pills, I suddenly gained some insights. Let me try again. Tang Ao finished speaking and threw the 6 types of spiritual herbs into the farmer god cauldron. Then, he began to purify the spiritual herbs. However, this time, Tang Ao's purification of the various medicinal liquids was not very pure. Just like some low-level alchemists, they were unable to purify medicinal liquids. Tang Ao directly used these crude medicinal liquids to fuse them together. Chapter 1120. Try it. Tang Ao passed the refined pill to Chu Shuahan. Chu Shuahan was shocked by Tang Ao. Although the two of them had deduced the effects of this pill, the actual effects might not be the same as the deduced results. Sometimes there might even be a huge difference. Seeing Chu Xiuhan waving her hands, Tang Ao looked at the little fox. The little fox seemed to understand Tang Ao's intention and hurriedly shrunk into Chu Xiuhan's arms. Its small eyes were full of caution as it stared at Tang Ao. Seeing the little fox's expression, Tang Ao smiled nonchalantly and took the pill himself. Tang Ao had the J-bone life soul. A mere pill poison couldn't do anything to Tang Ao. The reason why he asked Chu Xiuhan and the little fox was just a teaser. How could Tang Ao really let Chu Xiuhan try the pill? Chu Xiuhan was shocked by Tang Ao's actions. Even if she and Tang Ao were both top-notch pill refiners, they couldn't personally try such an unfamiliar pill. However, seeing that Tang Ao didn't have any symptoms after taking the pill, Chu Xiuhan was slightly relieved. From the looks of it, although the pill's effects were terrible, at least it wasn't poisonous. After taking the pill, Tang Ao used his soul remembrance to observe the changes in his body. After a long time, Tang Ao opened his eyes. This pill's effects are slightly inferior to the wood ice fruit. However, other than the poor effects, there aren't any other side effects. Then I'll just make some changes to this recipe. Seeing that Tang Ao had successfully concocted a second batch of pills, Chu Xiuhan didn't insist. She wasn't a stubborn person. The sky gradually darkened, and a bright moon slowly rose into the sky. The light from a furnace made Tang Ao and Chu Xiuhan's position especially conspicuous. A group of martial artists with steel blades found the bonfire in the snow and slowly approached it. After seeing Chu Xiuhan's stunning face, the crowd could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Brother Liang, this little girl looks like the little princess of the medicine refining valley. She's so pretty. The one who called Brother Liang was a bald man with an iron ring on his ear. At this moment, Liang Tao looked at Chu Xiuhan with an evil glint in his eyes. This is strange. Normally, Ji Fei Qian and Cui Jing are always with this girl. Why is she with a Seas of Souls realm level 4 brat this time? Brother Liang, you don't know about this. There's an 80% chance that she was abducted by this kid. Beside the bonfire, Tang Ao listened to the conversation between Liang Tao and the others, and 3 black lines appeared on his forehead. On the other hand, Chu Xiuhan was giggling at the side. The cultivation of Liang Tao and the others were not very high. When they approached, Chu Xiuhan and Tang Ao immediately sensed them. However, the two of them did not pay any attention to them. Did you hear that? You abducted me. Chu Xiuhan said to Tang Ao with a smile. Facing Chu Xiuhan's teasing, Tang Ao did not reply. This kind of thing would only make things worse. But right at this moment, a shifty-eyed warrior beside Liang Tao said, "In Xitigarbis Cemetery, a man and a woman stuck together. I wonder if Chu Xiuhan has been opened by this brat." Hearing this, Tang Ao suddenly looked at Chu Xiuhan and smiled evilly. Chu Xiuhan was a bit scared by his stare and said angrily, "Pervert." As she spoke, she even reached out her slender hand and tried to hit Tang Ao. Tang Ao subconsciously reached out and grabbed Chu Xiuhan's wrist. Feeling the soft wrist in his hand, Tang Ao hurriedly let go. Chu Xiuhan's pretty face was also a bit red as she hurriedly took back her hand. Chapter 1121. Liang Tao looked at Tang Ao with a burning gaze. Tang Ao was merely a 4th-level Sea of Souls realm brat. Why did he have to be with Chu Xiuhan? Immediately, Liang Tao raised his chi and leaped out. "Brat, I will spare your life today. Get lost." Liang Tao pointed at Tang Ao with his huge blade on his shoulder, his eyes full of arrogance. Tang Ao looked at Liang Tao as if he was looking at an idiot. This Liang Tao's cultivation base was only at the 6th level of Sea of Souls realm, which was only 2 levels higher than Tang Ao. Compared to Chu Xiuhan, who was at the 1st level of Life and Death realm, he was quite lacking. In this kind of situation, this Liang Tao still dared to covet Chu Xiuhan's beauty and jump out to cause trouble for him. "Brat, you..." Seeing that Tang Ao was unmoved, Liang Tao wanted to say a few more harsh words. However, before Liang Tao could say anything, Tang Ao immediately put away his alchemy furnace, stood up, and said, "Do as you please." After Tang Ao finished speaking, he walked to the side under Chu Shuahan's startled gaze. Chu Shuahan froze, then yelled at Tang Ao, "Tang Ao, you bastard! Don't you know how to protect me?" Tang Ao was a bit speechless. "How can I protect you with this little cultivation base? It would be good enough if I don't drag you down. Miss Chu, you should take care of yourself." Although Tang Ao was not afraid of Liang Tao, Tang Ao still did not want to waste time. He would not be able to deal with Liang Tao's group in a short time. However, Chu Shuahan was different. Once she released her life and death realm aura, they would most likely run away in fear. However, what Tang Ao did not expect was that Tang Ao had only taken a few steps when Chu Shuahan threw out a flying car and jumped on it with the little fox. She then said to Tang Ao below, "Tang Ao, I will wait for you in front. You have to kill your way out. I believe in you." After Chu Shuahan said those affectionate words, the flying car disappeared in the night sky, completely disappearing from Tang Ao's soul remembrance range. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao was stunned. "Brother Liang, the cooked duck has flown away. Let's kill this brat first, then go after Chu Shuahan." After Chu Shuahan ran away, Liang Tao and the others fixed their eyes on Tang Ao. One of the warriors noticed that Tang Ao was only at the 4th level of the Sea of Souls realm, so he threw a punch at Tang Ao first. Tang Ao leaned to the side and avoided this soft punch. "Heroes, let's talk this out." Before Tang Ao could finish his sentence, the others summoned their life souls and attacked Tang Ao together. Suddenly, a multicolored fate soul enveloped Tang Ao. Under this berserk attack, several cultivators revealed cruel smiles. Tang Ao was only at the 4th level of the Sea of Souls realm. Under this kind of attack, he might not even know how he died. However, after a while, someone realized that something was wrong because their attacks had missed. Tang Ao, who was still there a moment ago, had disappeared into thin air. Why is it snowing again? One of the warriors lifted up his head in confusion and saw that there was a huge blue array above everyone's head, and Tang Ao was standing on it. Tang Ao threw out a couple of array flags casually, sealing up the space below. These people had attacked him for no reason at all. Since that was the case, they could not blame Tang Ao for not going easy on them. After seeing Tang Ao's array, Liang Tao immediately realized that something was wrong, so he jumped out of the array. However, halfway through his flight, he was bounced back by a huge force. In front of him, there seemed to be an invisible barrier. Chapter 1122. After sealing Liang Tao and the others in ice, Tang Ao retracted his heavenly extreme pupils. Just now, other than using an array, Tang Ao also used heavenly extreme pupils. However, for a secret technique like heavenly extreme pupils, the higher one's cultivation, the stronger it would be. Now that Tang Ao's cultivation was greatly damaged, using heavenly extreme pupils wasn't as effective as he wished. The legendary heavenly extreme pupils is only at this level? Truly disappointing. A cold voice came from an ancient tree. Tang Ao swept his soul remembrance over and saw 2 martial artists. Tang Ao didn't recognize these 2, but Tang Ao knew that they were here for him. The person on the left was a shirtless large man. This large man's arms were as thick as Tang Ao's thighs, and his entire body was filled with power. Behind him was a thick large blade. This blade was as thick as a normal person's palm, but the blade was as thin as paper. Clearly, it wasn't a normal weapon. Tang Ao didn't recognize Frenzied Blade, but Frenzied Blade knew Tang Ao. Back when Tang Ao had a conflict with Lei Ming at the Cloudfoot auction, Frenzied Blade had secretly seen Tang Ao. Beside Frenzied Blade was a masked blue-clothed youth. This person gave Tang Ao an extremely dangerous feeling, and Tang Ao couldn't see through his cultivation. What surprised Tang Ao the most was that this blue-clothed youth was clearly standing next to Frenzy Blade, but Tang Ao could only see him with his naked eyes. His sole remembrance couldn't capture him at all. Hand over the heavenly star art. Take one of my moves, and I'll let you go. Frenzied Blade pulled out the large blade behind him. He was very interested in the heavenly extreme pupil Frenzied Blade, but Tang Ao's cultivation was too low, making Frenzied Blade disappointed. No, young master said not to leave anyone alive. Lang Ming, who was beside Frenzied Blade, spoke in an indifferent tone. The way he looked at Tang Ao was also very indifferent, as though he was looking at a dead man. There weren't many people who had seen Dark Wolf's gaze anymore, because most of these people had died at Dark Wolf's hands. I've sinned. Since you want to kill someone, I won't get involved. I'm most afraid of blood. Another figure came from behind Tang Ao. Hearing this voice, Tang Ao was shocked and subconsciously dodged to the distance. After stabilizing himself, Tang Ao looked at the fat monk who had suddenly appeared behind him with a serious expression. The fat monk had a benevolent look on his face, and there was even a kind smile on his face. But from time to time, his body revealed a murderous aura, which made people tremble with fear. Tang Ao knew that he couldn't deal with any one of these three people, so he could only escape. Without hesitation, Tang Ao flew in the opposite direction of the trio. However, just as Tang Ao flew into the air, he bumped into something soft. Tang Ao looked up and saw that it was the fat monk's belly. Damn monk, who asked you to interfere? Scram. After the fat monk intercepted Tang Ao, Frenzied Blade immediately scolded. I've sinned. The big monk is still alive, and well, why do you say that the big monk is a dead monk? Since the two of you aren't going to make a move, I'll do it for you. Dark Wolf wasn't a procrastinator. After the fat monk and Frenzied Blade didn't make a move on Tang Ao, Dark Wolf's figure instantly disappeared. Immediately, Tang Ao felt a chill behind him. Tang Ao didn't have time to dodge and could only subconsciously lean to the side. Then, a mist of blood burst out from under Tang Ao's ribs. Chapter 11:23. After blocking Dark Wolf's dagger, before Tang Ao could pull away, he felt a pain in his abdomen. It turned out that the dagger was just a feint. The instant Tang Ao blocked the dagger, Dark Wolf's elbow broke Tang Ao's ribs. Under Dark Wolf's attack, Tang Ao flew out like a kite with a broken string. Under the huge gap in cultivation, Tang Ao could not even last one round against Dark Wolf. After severely injuring Tang Ao, Dark Wolf did not give Tang Ao a chance to catch his breath. A shadow flashed, and the dagger in Dark Wolf's hand slashed towards Tang Ao's throat. At this moment, Tang Ao's internal organs were churning. Dark Wolf's attack just now had clearly injured Tang Ao. Seeing Dark Wolf attack again, Tang Ao hurriedly dodged. But the moment Tang Ao stimulated his spiritual energy, he felt a sweetness in his throat before he spurted out a mouthful of blood. His injuries were more serious than he imagined. Under the huge gap in cultivation, he had clearly missed the best opportunity to escape. If he had activated the spatial Jade Talisman when he saw Dark Wolf and Frenzied Blade, he still had a 50% chance of escaping. But now, Tang Ao only had one option left, which was to enter the hexagram mirror. But escaping into the six-light mirror space did not mean safety. Exposing the six-light mirror in front of Dark Wolf and the other two was definitely not a good thing. The most likely outcome was that one of the three would refine the Primal Chaos 6-light mirror and Tang Ao would die. Looking at Dark Wolf, Tang Ao did not dare to hesitate and was about to escape into the six-light mirror space. Ding! Just at this moment, a white light flashed and intercepted Dark Wolf's dagger. Tang Ao looked over and saw that this white light was a silver mirror. And the owner of the silver mirror was Chu Xuahan, who had just escaped. Chu Xuahan had already left the place, but when she saw that Tang Ao didn't chase after her for a long time, she was worried that something might have happened to Tang Ao, so she went back the way she came. What she saw after returning was beyond her expectations. Liang Tao and the others had been dealt with by Tang Ao, but Tang Ao had encountered a big problem. After blocking Dark Lang's attack, Chu Shuahan knew that she wasn't Dark Lang's opponent. Chu Shuahan immediately shouted at Tang Ao, "Why are you still in a daze? Come up quickly." Tang Ao seized the opportunity and flew to Chu Shuahan's flying car. Just as Tang Ao boarded Chu Shuahan's flying car, the smiling fat monk appeared in front of the flying car. "Out of the way," Chu Shuahan said coldly to the fat monk as she steered the flying car. However, the fat monk still smiled and remained unmoved. Just as the flying car flew in front of him, he suddenly slapped out with his palm. Immediately, a huge crack appeared on the flying car. At this moment, Tang Ao's spiritual power was in chaos. Seeing Chu Shuahan's flying car being destroyed by the fat monk, Tang Ao hurriedly handed a space jade talisman to Chu Shuahan. Chu Shuahan understood Tang Ao's meaning and didn't hesitate to activate the teleportation jade talisman. However, just as the white light enveloped Chu Shuahan and Tang Ao, a tearing blade beam whistled over, as though it wanted to slice Chu Shuahan and Tang Ao in half. At this moment, Chu Shuahan was busy activating the space jade talisman and couldn't block the blade beam at all. As for Tang Ao, his spiritual power was in chaos, so he naturally couldn't do anything. Seeing the blade beam whistling over, Tang Ao used all his psyche to summon the Battle Sagebone Life Soul. At the same time, he protected Chu Shuahan in his arms. The Battle Sagebone Life Soul was a powerful 29th Heaven Life Soul, after all. If he did this, Tang Ao would most likely be killed by the recoil, but Chu Shuahan should be able to escape. Although Tang Ao was unwilling to die like this, in this situation, Tang Ao had no other choice. Chapter 1124. After Li Muling shattered Frenzied Blade's saber aura, Chu Shuahan completely activated the spatial jade talisman. Following that, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan disappeared. Li Muling glanced in the direction Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan teleported in, and a hint of worry flashed at her eyes. She could tell that Tang Ao's injuries were extremely serious. Even though Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were top alchemists, Tang Ao probably wouldn't recover so easily. Song Zizhang, who was holding an ancient book in his hand, also came to Li Muling's side. Song Zizhang glanced at Frenzied Blade and company with a wary gaze. Although he and Li Muling were strong, Frenzied Blade and company weren't ordinary people. If they were to fight now, he and Li Muling would definitely be at a disadvantage. "Sister Muling, Tang Ao has already left safely. I don't think we should fight them head-on." "No. How can I let go of someone who beat me so easily? The three of you can attack together." As Li Muling spoke, she slapped at the fat monk. The fat monk dared to block Chu Shuahan's flying car with his bare hands, but he didn't have the guts to block Li Muling's lightning palm. Seeing that Frenzied Blade and Dark Wolf didn't make a move, the fat monk immediately shouted, "If you guys don't make a move, I'm going to run." After saying that, the fat monk disappeared without waiting for Frenzied Blade and Dark Wolf's reply. Although the fat monk looked clumsy, he was proficient in spatial powers. This time, the fat monk used all his trump cards. When his figure appeared again, he was already thousands of miles away. In a valley filled with fluttering snow, two figures suddenly appeared in midair. It was a young man and woman. The woman's face still had a hint of redness, but the young man who was hugging the woman had already fainted. The young man was none other than Tang Ao, and the fairy-like woman was naturally Chu Shuahan. At that moment, Tang Ao's ribs that had been slashed by Dark Wolf were already pitch black. Dark Wolf couldn't help but be ruthless. His dagger was coated with poison. Furthermore, the poison was rather powerful. Even Tang Ao's Jade Bone Life soul found it difficult to suppress. Apart from being poisoned, Tang Ao's internal organs were all injured by Dark Wolf. After Chu Shuahan found a cave nearby, she carried Tang Ao into the cave. After starting a fire, Chu Shuahan quickly checked on Tang Ao's injuries. However, the difference in cultivation was too great. In just two simple attacks, Tang Ao was heavily injured by Dark Wolf. Although he was heavily injured, Tang Ao's battle record was enough to be proud of. Tang Ao was only at the 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm, while Dark Wolf was at the 4th level of Life and Death Realm. Under such circumstances, no one would believe that Tang Ao could withstand 2 moves from Yishuan. Pucci. After spitting out another mouthful of blood, Tang Ao slowly opened his eyes. The poison on the Dark Wolf dagger was extremely powerful. Currently, Tang Ao's spirit power and soul remembrance were in chaos. Tang Ao raised his hand with difficulty and handed the storage ring to Chu Shuahan. You want me to help you give your belongings to your family? Tell me, who do you want me to give it to? Don't worry, I will definitely give it to her. Chu Shuahan looked at the weakened Tang Ao and vowed. Tang Ao heard Chu Shuahan's words and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. I have great lotus pills in my storage ring. Help me take them. Towards Chu Shuahan, Tang Ao was truly speechless. Although his injuries weren't light, it wasn't to that extent. Moreover, compared to last time, Tang Ao felt that his injuries weren't even worth mentioning. Yeah, why didn't I think that you're best at concocting great lotus pills? You should have a lot of great lotus pills on you. Chu Shuahan said as her soul remembrance entered Tang Ao's storage ring and started searching. Chapter 1125. After taking the Great Lotus Pill, Tang Ao's weak aura instantly became stronger. The pure medicinal power of the Great Lotus Pill flowed through Tang Ao's limbs and bones. Tang Ao's damaged internal organs were quickly healed by the Great Lotus Pill. Not long after, Tang Ao's internal and external injuries were completely healed. However, the toxins in his body were still not cleared, but Tang Ao could already use the Jade Bone Life Spirit to suppress these toxins. Tang Ao, what is this? While Tang Ao was closing his eyes to heal, Chu Shuahan was still looking at the trinkets in Tang Ao's storage ring. At this moment, Chu Shuahan was holding a beautiful bracelet in her hand. This bracelet was forged by Tang Ao himself. It looked like a bracelet, but in fact, it was a storage spiritual tool. This is the family heirloom that my mother left for her daughter-in-law. After looking at Chu Shuahan, Tang Ao said faintly, Chu Shuahan was so shocked that her hands trembled and she almost dropped the bracelet. Seeing Chu Shuahan's expression, Tang Ao couldn't help but laugh. After seeing Tang Ao teasing her, Chu Shuahan immediately realized that this bracelet was obviously a spiritual tool that was forged not long ago. How could it be a family heirloom? Tang Ao was really fooling her. I'll return it to you. Such a precious thing, you better keep it well. Chu Shuahan snorted coldly and returned the bracelet to Tang Ao. This bracelet is a storage spiritual tool that I forged using congealing jade. If you like it, I'll give it to you. This bracelet could be regarded as one of Tang Ao's current representative works. Moreover, the material used to forge this bracelet was extremely precious. It was an immortal grade 1 spiritual material, congealing jade. Girls naturally like beautiful things, and Chu Shuahan was no exception. This bracelet was crystal clear and was decorated with stars. It looked extremely beautiful. Of course, Chu Shuahan liked it very much. After hearing that Tang Ao wanted to give this bracelet to her, Chu Shuahan hesitated for a moment and took out an azure pearl. This is a treasure I obtained by chance. How about I exchange it with you? Chu Shuahan blushed and quickly added, although I don't know what treasure it is, it's definitely a treasure. It's up to you whether you want to exchange it or not. Let's trade then. Although the storage bracelet was precious, Chu Shuahan had saved his life not long ago. Compared to his own life, a storage bracelet was nothing. Moreover, Chu Shuahan wasn't asking for it for free. She was using treasures to exchange for it. However, Chu Shuahan's treasure was too rare. Tang Ao couldn't tell what it was. However, Tang Ao knew that Chu Shuahan was right about one thing. This thing was definitely a treasure. This was because when Tang Ao used the sky polar eyes to examine the pearl, Tang Ao actually felt waves of dizziness. After Tang Ao awakened the sky polar eyes, he didn't know how many times he had used it. However, it was Tang Ao's first time seeing something that could make the sky polar eyes dizzy. After putting away the pearl, Tang Ao asked Chu Shuahan, "Do you know what this place is?" Tang Ao had just used his soul remembrance to scan this place. This was a snowy valley. After comparing it to all his maps, Tang Ao found that this was a place that wasn't recorded on his maps. Chapter 1126. Tang Ao wasn't surprised by Chu Shuahan's answer. Although the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery was vast and boundless, the space it was located in was not very stable. After using the Space Jade Talisman in the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery, it was very likely that one would be teleported out of the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery. It was easy to leave the Ksitigarbha Cemetery. However, it was not so easy to re-enter the cemetery. When Tang Ao and the others entered the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery, the 9 top experts of the ice and snow plane had to join forces to tear the entrance of the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery. Therefore, if one wanted to enter the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery, he would have to find 9 top experts to tear the entrance of the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery, or he would have to be extremely powerful to blast the entrance of the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery. However, these 2 methods were not practical for Tang Ao now. Fortunately, Tang Ao had used the Space Jade Talisman in a hurry, so he did not directly teleport Tang Ao out of the Earth Bodhisattva Cemetery. While Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were chatting, Chu Shuahan's little fox walked into the cave with a furry fruit in its mouth. The little fellow staggered as it walked, as if it was drunk. It looked very funny. After it staggered to Chu Shuahan's side, it tilted its head and fell on Chu Shuahan's body. A refreshing aroma of wine wafted out from the little fox's body. It was obvious that this little fellow had really drunk wine somewhere. Chu Shuahan stretched out her slender hand and lifted the little fox up. She asked, "Little bastard, where did you steal wine to drink?" The little fox looked at Chu Shuahan with its drunken eyes. It thought that Chu Shuahan wanted to eat the fruit in its mouth, so it hurriedly handed the furry fruit over with its little paw. Chu Shuahan could not help but smile at its silly and adorable appearance. She was not in the mood to scold it. Tang Ao fixed his eyes on this furry fruit. It was a nut-like spiritual fruit, one of the exclusive spiritual fruits in Ksitigarbha Cemetery. Tang Ao had not seen such a weird fruit in Xianhuang Continent or Ice Plain. Tang Ao took the spirit fruit from the little fox's hand and used a little force to crush the hard shell. Then, several fruits that looked like pine nuts appeared in Tang Ao's hand. These fruits, which looked like pine nuts, were golden in color and looked quite unusual. "Do you want to try it?" Tang Ao handed the golden fruit to Chu Shuahan. Chu Shuahan hesitated for a moment, but still picked up a pine nut kernel. After chewing lightly, Chu Shuahan's expression changed instantly. She then said, "You can't eat this, it's too bitter." Although Chu Shuahan said he couldn't eat it, Tang Ao still threw one into his mouth. After biting with his teeth, a stream of juice flowed into Tang Ao's mouth. However, the taste of the juice was hard to describe. Tang Ao had cultivated for 2 lifetimes, but he had never tasted something so bitter. However, after a while, Tang Ao was surprised to find that the spiritual power in his body was running much smoother and his body seemed to be much lighter. When Tang Ao was about to tell Chu Shuahan about this discovery, he found that Chu Shuahan was also looking at him. Obviously, Chu Shuahan had also noticed this. "This fruit seems to be a good treasure. Let's go look for it when the little fox wakes up." What Tang Ao wanted to find the most in Ksitigarbha Cemetery was the spiritual ice fruit forest. However, Tang Ao had no clue about the spiritual ice fruit forest at the moment. It was not a big deal to look for this spiritual fruit while looking for the spiritual ice fruit forest. Chapter 1127. In a valley flickering with lightning, Frenzied Blade and the other 2 respectfully stood in front of Lei Lingyun. Lei Lingyun's eyes narrowed as he asked, "Is Tang Ao that powerful? You 3 went together, and he escaped?" Lei Lingyun's face was very calm, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Young Master, Frenzy Blade, and Laughing Monk did not put in any effort. Originally, we could have captured Tang Ao quickly, but the two of them did not take action. Before Laughing Monk and Frenzy Blade could speak, Dark Wolf took the initiative to complain about Laughing Monk and Frenzy Blade. Lei Lingyun, however, waved his hand. I heard that Tang Ao is only a weak 4th level C of Soul's Realm Warrior. Even if Laughing Monk and Frenzy Blade did not make a move, you, Dark Wolf, as a first-rate life and death Realm Warrior, would not be able to take down Tang Ao? Although Lei Lingyun's tone was calm, Dark Wolf's heart still trembled. Young Master, it was only 2 rounds, and Tang Ao was heavily injured by me. Just when I was about to capture Tang Ao alive, Li Muling suddenly appeared. After Li Muling arrived, Laughing Monk took the initiative to run. Frenzy Blade and I fought with Li Muling and Song Zizhong for dozens of rounds, and after a draw, we could only retreat. In that case, you 3 put aside Tang Ao's matter for now. A few years ago, people from a Sky Fragrant restaurant found a spirit ice fruit forest nearby. You guys carefully search around. As for Tang Ao, tell Second Brother about him and let him torment him. Also, tell Long Xiao to keep an eye on Second Brother. In a valley covered in ice and snow, a flying car was slowly flying at a low altitude. A fire was lit on the deck of the flying car. Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan sat around the fire, while the little fox lazily curled up in Chu Shuahan's arms. At this moment, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were looking for the strange spirit fruit that the little fox had brought back not long ago. Although the little fox could not speak, its intelligence was not low. When Chu Shuahan told it to look for the spiritual fruit, it immediately pointed the way for Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan. By the way, Tang Ao, how did you get targeted by Lei Lingyun? Even my great-grandfather has to give in to Lei Lingyun. Chu Shuahan had wanted to ask this question for a long time, but she didn't have the chance to do so until now. Because of this cultivation technique, Tang Ao took out the Heavenly Star Art. Seeing this cultivation technique, Chu Shuahan suddenly felt that it was somewhat familiar. After a while, Chu Shuahan recalled why this cultivation technique was so familiar. Back then, in the Cloud Foothill auction, Tang Ao and Lei Lingyun's second brother, Lei Ming, had competed for this cultivation method. It was said that this was a cultivation technique for the astral reaching realm warriors, but it was incomplete. Back then, when Tang Ao was bidding for this martial art, he had taken out a complete astral reaching realm martial art to exchange. Is there anything special about this cultivation method? Lei Lingyun actually sent his 3 powerful warriors to hunt you down. Although astral reaching realm martial arts were rare, Chu Shuahan, as the little princess of the medicine refining valley, had naturally seen some astral reaching realm martial arts. Therefore, after seeing this heavenly star art, Chu Shuahan was not that surprised. This martial art is indeed incomplete, but it is definitely not an astral reaching realm martial art. It is a higher level martial art. As for what level it is, I do not know. Lei Lingyun did not get it last time, but he will come back sooner or later. I will make a copy first. Next time I meet Lei Lingyun, even if this martial art is stolen by him, it will be fine. Chapter 1128. When Tang Ao had obtained the Heavenly Star Art at the Cloud Foothill auction, he had kept it in his storage ring and did not study it in detail. That was why Tang Ao didn't know that the cosmic art was actually a lightning-attributed technique. I've heard of something, but I don't know if it's true or not. Chu Shuahan suddenly thought of something when Tang Ao mentioned the cosmic art. What is it? Tang Ao asked curiously. I heard from my great-grandfather that the Lightning Temple's 5 Thunder technique is incomplete. Could it be? Chu Shuahan didn't continue and looked at the technique in Tang Ao's hands. Tang Ao touched his chin and pondered for a moment before saying, that might be possible. Although this cultivation law is incomplete, it's not the content that's incomplete. It's just that the first part of the cultivation law is missing. It's very likely that the Lightning Temple's 5 Thunder technique is the first half of the technique. and this cosmic art is the second half. The complete technique is called the Five Thunder Cosmic Art. Chu Shuahan was shocked. As the princess of the Medicine Refinement Valley, she knew more about the Lightning Temple than anyone else. The Lightning Temple had only relied on the incomplete Five Thunder Mantra to become the overlord of the Winter Plains. If the cosmic art in Tang Ao's hands was truly the second half of the Five Thunder Mantra, then there really wouldn't be any power in the Winter Plains that could contend with the Lightning Temple. For a long time, the Black Crow Market and the Nether Ghost Valley were the two major forces that were criticized the most. But Chu Shuihan knew that the Lightning Temple's evil deeds were not something the Black Crow Market and Nether Ghost Valley could compare to. Chu Shuihan wasn't the only one who knew about this. The core members of the major forces in the Winter Plains also knew about this. It was just that everyone turned a blind eye. No one was willing to stand up for them. Chu Shuihan had heard from the old Medicine King that because the Lightning Temple's technique was incomplete, there would be a series of inexplicable symptoms when cultivating. When these symptoms appeared, one had to find a cultivator with a lightning attribute spiritual root, dig out their spiritual root, and graft it onto oneself. Only then could one maintain their cultivation and continue cultivating. Because of this, there were very few cultivators with lightning attribute spiritual roots in the Winter Plains. Most of the disciples in the Lightning Temple did not have pure lightning attribute spiritual roots either. Although Chu Shuihan wasn't very sure herself, she still decided to tell Tang Ao. Bang! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out from an extremely hidden cave. Immediately, Lei Ming walked out of the cave, his clothes somewhat tattered. Compared to before, the current Lei Ming could be said to have advanced at a godly speed. He was already at the fourth layer of the life and death realm. Although there was still a long distance between him and his big brother, Lei Lingyun, this distance was being pulled closer bit by Lei Ming. At this moment, the cave behind Lei Ming had completely collapsed. If a martial artist were to recklessly enter the cave, they would see a martial artist who had died a miserable death. This martial artist's eyes were lifeless, and there was a shocking wound between his eyebrows. Although his face was slightly distorted, those who were familiar with him could still recognize that this person was Little Thunder Duke Shuelei. Is there news of Tang Ao's whereabouts? After merging with another martial artist, Thunder Spirit Root, Lei Ming's mood was very good. Lei Ming's Thunder Spiritual Root was not as pure as his big brother Lei Lingyun's. However, Lei Ming had accidentally discovered that he could strengthen his own Thunder Spiritual Root by fusing with other martial artists' Thunder Spiritual Roots. Lei Ming's Lightning Attribute Spiritual Root was not as pure as his brother's, but Lei Ming had accidentally discovered that he could strengthen his own by merging with other cultivators' spiritual roots. Chapter 1129. Tang Ao escaped from the hands of the Frenzied Blade Trio? Are you sure this information is true? Lei Ming found it hard to believe. When he first saw Tang Ao at the Cloud Foothill auction, Lei Ming remembered that Tang Ao was only at the fourth level of the spiritual ocean realm. Could it be that Tang Ao was like him, able to increase his aptitude and cultivation by devouring other martial artists' spirit roots? Moreover, Tang Ao now had the strength to contend against the Frenzied Blade Trio. It's absolutely true. The one who said this was another person, but there was still no one around Lei Ming, so he didn't know where this voice came from. Mr. Yuda, why do you say this? Although he didn't see the person, Lei Ming knew who he was talking to. I can't be wrong. I saw it with my own eyes. Mr. Yuda didn't say much, but this sentence was shocking enough. When Tang Ao and the Frenzied Blade Trio fought, whether it was Tang Ao or the Frenzied Blade Trio, or even Li Muling and the other two who arrived later, they all used their soul remembrance to scout the surroundings. However, no one discovered Mr. Yuda's existence. Someone's coming. Without waiting for Lei Ming to speak, Mr. Yuda spoke again. Then, Mr. Yuda and Mr. Yusekin's auras completely disappeared from this place. In a hazy fog forest, a young man and woman walked shoulder to shoulder. In the woman's arms lay a furry little fox. This young man and woman were naturally Tang Ao and Chu Shuihan. After walking through the hazy fog forest for a while, the little fox in Chu Shuahan's arms suddenly jumped down. Immediately, it took a step forward with its short legs and ran towards a lush area. Seeing the little fox's actions, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan hurriedly chased after it. After running for a while, the little fox stopped in a spacious snowy area and used its little claws to rummage through the snow to find something. Tang Ao's sole remembrance shrouded the snowy area and discovered that there was actually another world under the snowy area. This was because Tang Ao discovered that there was actually a dilapidated cave dwelling under the snow. Tang Ao didn't know who left this cave, but he knew that the person who left this cave was definitely an expert, because in this cave abode, Tang Ao actually saw a broken grade, one immortal array. At that moment, the little fox, who had been rummaging through the snow, found a small jade bottle. After finding the emerald jade bottle, the little fox excitedly ran towards Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan with the bottle in its mouth. Before the little fox reached Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan, Tang Ao could already smell the intoxicating fragrance of wine. After smelling the aroma, Tang Ao suddenly remembered the incident where the little fox got drunk not long ago. It seemed that the little fellow had found the wine here. Chu Shuahan took the small jade bottle from the little fox's mouth. Chu Shuahan discovered that there was a restriction on the small jade bottle. However, this restriction wasn't very strong, so Chu Shuahan easily used her sole remembrance to break the restriction. After this restriction was broken, a strong aroma of wine instantly spread out. Chu Shuahan and Tang Ao only took a slight sniff and instantly felt a hazy drunkenness. What a fragrant wine! Tang Ao couldn't help but exclaim. Tang Ao didn't drink often. However, it wasn't that Tang Ao who didn't like to drink. Instead, it was because Tang Ao only drank good wine. However, after being injured, Tang Ao's cultivation had been greatly damaged. With his current strength, it wouldn't be easy to obtain good wine. Now, however, Tang Ao was sure that the wine in Chu Shuahan's jade bottle was definitely top-notch wine. Chapter 11:30. Medicine Refining Valley has many famous wines, but this is the first time I've seen a spirit wine of this quality. Chu Shuahan didn't know how to drink, but that didn't mean she didn't know about wine. Do you want to try it? Chu Shuahan looked at Tang Ao and asked. Tang Ao had asked her to try all the strange things in the past. This time, it was finally her turn to ask Tang Ao to try it. Tang Ao laughed bitterly, but still took the small jade bottle from Chu Shuahan's hand. This jade bottle was only the size of a palm, so naturally, there wasn't much wine in it. Tang Ao opened the cork, picked up the small jade bottle, and drank a mouthful of the wine. The moment the wine entered his mouth, Tang Ao felt a fire burning in his body. Moreover, this fire was like a living thing, continuously spreading along Tang Ao's limbs and meridians. Tang Ao felt dizzy, and his body felt like it was on fire. When he looked at Chu Shuahan, Tang Ao only felt that Chu Shuahan was a bit blurry, and the surrounding space was also shaking. At this moment, Tang Ao still had a trace of consciousness. Tang Ao only had one thought in his mind. This wine is so strong. Tang Ao was sure that this was a top-quality spirit wine that he had never tasted before. Although he hadn't tasted it before, Tang Ao still recognized it. In the Spirit Treasure Mirror, there was a type of top-quality spirit wine called the Clear Soul wine. This wine was mellow and refreshing. Drinking it was like swallowing burning charcoal, making one's body extremely hot. A person with a weak cultivation would even die from drinking this wine. The higher one's cultivation, the less stimulating the wine would be. However, no matter how strong or weak one's cultivation was, drinking this wine would greatly benefit one's soul. Put on. Tang Ao's body swayed a few times, and he finally couldn't take it anymore and collapsed in the snow. Chu Shuahan saw that Tang Ao had fainted after drinking a mouthful of wine and thought that the wine was poisoned. She quickly helped Tang Ao up and used her soul remembrance to scan Tang Ao's meridians. Discovering that Tang Ao was only drunk, Chu Shuehan curled her lips. In Chu Shuehan's impression, male martial artist's alcohol tolerance was very good. She didn't expect that Tang Ao's alcohol tolerance would be so bad, collapsing after just one sip. Chu Shuehan took the small jade bottle from Tang Ao's hands. Using a handkerchief to wipe the bottle's mouth, Chu Shuehan brought it to her lips and took a sip. After drinking a mouthful, Chu Shuehan felt as though she had drunk a ball of fire, and her pretty face flushed red. Then, Chu Shuehan felt the world spinning around her, and she fainted. The little fox saw to Chu Shuehan and saw that both drunk and drunk. Chu Shuehan had already passed out. The little fox came to Chu Shuehan's side and shook its head when it saw the half-empty jade bottle in Chu Shuehan's hand. The little fox remembered that it had drunk an entire bottle of wine last time. However, its master and Tang Ao were too weak. The two of them had only drunk half a bottle of wine and were already drunk. Last time, when a little fox was drunk, it had walked back to the cave by itself before collapsing. Seeing Tang Ao and Chu Shuehan both drunk, the little fox scratched its head. After thinking for a while, it took out a flying soul artifact and a golden armored puppet from its storage ring. This golden armored puppet was a treasure the little fox had found in the cave under the snow. After refining it, the little fox could control the puppet as it wished. Chapter 1131. However, if Tang Ao and Chu Shuehan were still sober, they would have been shocked by the golden armored puppet. This was because the aura it exuded was at least at the 9th level of the life and death realm. In other words, this golden armored puppet could display the power of a 9th level life and death realm martial artist. The strongest martial artist in the Medicine Refining Valley, the Old Medicine King, was only at the 7th level of the life and death realm. This golden armored puppet was even stronger than him. If Lei Ling Yun and the others did not use evil methods to forcefully increase their cultivation, this golden armored puppet would be the strongest martial artist in the Snow Plains. After controlling the golden armored puppet to carry Tang Ao and Chu Shuehan onto the flying spiritual tool, the little fox controlled the flying spiritual tool to fly back to the cave where they were resting. After placing Tang Ao and Chu Shuehan on the grass to sleep, the little fox took out the heart of Heaven Soul wine that it had found earlier. The little fox first drank the remaining half bottle of spirit wine that was drunk by Tang Ao and the other man. Then, it opened the other bottle of spirit wine as if it was not enough. After drinking half of the spiritual wine, the little fox was only slightly drunk, unlike Tang Ao and Chu Shuehan, who were drunk in one gulp. Moreover, after drinking the spiritual wine, the little fox's body shone with a faint golden light. However, this golden light disappeared in a flash, and the little fox did not notice it. Looking at the spiritual wine in front of it, the little fox finally could not resist the temptation and drank the entire bottle of the heart of Heaven Soul wine. The little fox swayed twice before falling into Chu Shuehan's arms. Inside the cave, the two people and the fox were all drunk. Not far from the cave, a peak 9th floor of Linghai Jing Ironbone Wolf was foraging for food. Although it was quite far away, the Ironbone Wolf could still smell a few weak auras in the cave. From the smell, the Ironbone Wolf could tell that there were 3 living creatures in the cave. It seemed to be 2 people and a fox. One of the human martial artists had a very strong aura at the life and death realm. Normally, the Ironbone Wolf would turn and run if it encountered a life and death realm martial artist. But now the Ironbone Wolf was very excited. The flesh of a cultivator was a great supplement to the Ironbone Wolf. The stronger the cultivator, the more nourishing the Ironbone Wolf was. The Ironbone Wolf could feel that the 2 martial artists in the cave had fainted. This was different from being asleep. After a martial artist fell asleep, their soul remembrance would still be vigilant of their surroundings. However, the Ironbone Wolf couldn't feel any soul remembrance fluctuations around it. With light steps, the Ironbone Wolf arrived at the cave. The wolf glanced at Tang Ao, then shifted its gaze to Chu Shuehan, who was beside Tang Ao. Seeing Chu Shuahan's snow-white neck, the iron-boned wolf couldn't help but want to bite her. But when the wolf came to Chu Shuahan's side, it saw the little fox in her arms. The metal-boned wolf kicked the little fox away without a care, and the little fox crashed into Tang Ao. When he opened his eyes, Tang Ao felt like his head was about to explode. Tang Ao knew that this was the side effect of drinking the heaven's heart soul cleansing wine. Without waiting for Tang Ao to think, Tang Ao felt an extreme sense of danger. Turning his head, he saw a 9th floor of Linghai Jing level iron-bone wolf opening its bloody mouth towards Chu Shuahan's neck. Tang Ao didn't have time to think. He instantly took out the primordial sacred heavenly bow and shot a profound sky arrow at the iron-bone wolf. The iron-bone wolf, who was about to enjoy its meal, suddenly felt its tail stand up. At this moment, it felt the threat of death. It couldn't care less about Chu Shuahan and hastily rolled on the ground, narrowly avoiding Tang Ao's profound sky arrow. Chapter 1132. The iron-bone wolf did not feel any threat from Tang Ao. From the weak spirit power vibration on Tang Ao, the wolf could tell that Tang Ao was only a weak warrior. Normally, facing a warrior like this, the wolf would not hesitate to bite off his neck. But now, the wolf's cunning eyes flickered. It was very wary of the primordial sacred heaven bow in Tang Ao's hands. The wolf could feel an aura of death from the bow. Shoo! 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 While the wolf was hesitating, Tang Ao did not just stand there and shoot out 3 mysterious sky arrows. The wolf in front of him was a peak-level beast on the 9th floor of Linghai Jing. Although Tang Ao's battling power was shocking, Tang Ao's cultivation had been damaged a lot, and he was only at the 4th level of the Sea of Souls realm. With such a huge cultivation gap, if Tang Ao was not careful, he could become the wolf's lunch. Boom! Boom! The 3 mysterious heaven arrows were all dodged by the iron-bone wolf, and the mountain wall behind it also exploded 3 times in succession. In the sky full of rocks, the wolf suddenly jumped out and clawed at Tang Ao. Piss off! Tang Ao held the primordial sacred heaven bow with both hands and swept it towards the abdomen of the metal-boned wolf. When Tang Ao swung the primordial sacred sky bow, both ends of the primordial sacred sky bow became extremely sharp. The primordial sacred sky bow was a divine weapon that could be used for close combat. Although it looked a little strange, this was the form of the primordial sacred sky bow. Roar! Facing Tang Ao's attack, the iron-boned wolf roared and slapped its huge claws at the primordial sacred sky bow's blade light. This attack was like a sky-shattering attack, and it was extremely powerful. However, Tang Ao wasn't scared by the iron-boned wolf. Seeing that the iron-boned wolf changed its move to block the Origin's sacred heavenly bow, Tang Ao suddenly retreated and immediately pulled the Origin's sacred heavenly bow into a full moon shape. A profound heavenly arrow flew towards the waist of the iron-boned wolf. The wolf had a bronze head, an iron tail, and a soft waist. Its head, tail, and sharp claws were all very powerful, but its waist was its weakness. If Tang Ao were at his peak, this wolf would have been killed by Tang Ao with 1 arrow already. However, right now, Tang Ao did not have enough spirit power. Although the mysterious sky arrow was powerful, its speed was a lot slower. Even if Tang Ao launched a sneak attack, the nimble iron-bone wolf was still able to dodge the profound heaven arrow in midair. After dodging the arrow, the wolf did not slow down at all. Its sharp claws slapped toward Tang Ao's head. If this attack hit, Tang Ao would immediately be covered in blood. However, it was already too late for Tang Ao to dodge. All he could do was instantly summon the battle sage bone life soul and punch at the iron-bone wolf's sharp claws. When the fist and the claw collided, Tang Ao felt as if his fist had hit a steel plate. The powerful rebounding force directly sent Tang Ao flying, slamming into the mountain wall behind him. Even though the battle between Tang Ao and the wolf had caused such a huge commotion. The drunk Chu Shuahan and the little fox were still sleeping soundly. Moreover, the little fox's claws would occasionally grab in front of itself and then put it to its mouth. This little fellow seemed to be dreaming of something delicious and was completely unaware of the dangers of the outside world. At this moment, Tang Ao was in a dilemma. If he was alone, Tang Ao would definitely run away, but now he could not abandon Chu Shuahan. Chapter 1133. Bastard, this is too much. Tang Ao spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, Tang Ao released the Green Lotus Sword Spirit. After releasing the Green Lotus Sword Spirit, Tang Ao put away the primordial sacred sky bow and the battle sagebone life spirit. Tang Ao had already decided to fight with this ironbone wolf. It seemed like Tang Ao could not afford to waste his energy, but that was not the case, because Chu Shuahan could wake up at any time. As long as Chu Shuahan woke up with her life and death realm level 1 cultivation, this wolf would not be a problem. Secondly, when Tang Ao used the Green Lotus Sword Spirit, it did not consume much energy. Moreover, the Green Lotus Sword Spirit was very powerful and agile. Although the wolf was agile, it was still far behind the Green Lotus Sword Spirit. Therefore, Tang Ao planned to use his movement skills and the Green Lotus Sword Spirit to fight the wolf. Even if the worst happened, Tang Ao could use the Space Jade Charm to escape with Chu Shuahan and the little fox. Although Tang Ao could use the Space Jade Charm to escape, Tang Ao was worried that once he used it, he would really be teleported out of the Xitigarbus Cemetery. Therefore, unless he had no other choice, Tang Ao did not plan to use the Space Jade Charm. Go! Tang Ao moved his mind, and the Green Lotus Sword Spirit split into 7. The 7 Green Lotus Swords turned into 7 beams of light, shooting toward the wolf. Facing the whistling Green Lotus Swords, the wolf did not retreat. Instead, it moved forward, dodging the attacks of the Green Lotus Swords as it chased after Tang Ao. The sharp Green Lotus Sword Chi scratched its body from time to time, leaving a trace of blood. Now that my strength has been greatly damaged, although the Green Lotus Sword Spirit can hit the wolf, it cannot injure it severely. Although the Green Lotus Sword Chi left a trace of blood on the wolf's body from time to time, Tang Ao knew that these were only superficial wounds to the wolf. Unless his Green Lotus Sword Chi was as poisonous as Lang Ming, then he might be able to poison the wolf to death. Unfortunately, Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword Chi was used to kill enemies with its sharpness, so there was no poison in it. After being continuously hit by Tang Ao's sword for dozens of times, the Ironbone Wolf became even more unrestrained. At the beginning, the wolf tried to avoid Tang Ao's Sword Chi, but now it completely ignored Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword Chi and chased after Tang Ao. At this time, Ao had already reached the entrance of the cave. Seeing the wolf with red eyes, Tang Ao, and Lotus Sword Chi, Tang of the Ao, of Ao. At this time, the wolf was also in a killing frenzy. It did not realize that as long as Tang Ao left, it could completely enjoy this feast. When Tang Ao saw the Ironbone Wolf chasing after him, he couldn't help but sigh in relief. Tang Ao was really worried that the Ironbone Wolf wouldn't take the bait. If that was the case, then he could only stay in a stalemate with the Ironbone Wolf. Now that the Ironbone Wolf had chased him out, the initiative was in his hands. With the help of the Godspeed Talisman, Tang Ao's speed was shocking. Although the wolf's speed was not slow, Tang Ao had the help of the Godspeed Talisman, so the wolf could only chase Tang Ao from a distance, neither too close nor too far behind Tang Ao. Tang Ao looked back at the iron-boned wolf and sped up his pace a little. The wolf had chased for so long, so obviously it would not be able to go back. In this case, of course, Tang Ao had to find a way to get rid of the wolf. However, it was not that easy for Tang Ao to get rid of the wolf. Behind Tang Ao, the wolf was like the wind. Although it could not catch up to Tang Ao could not pull away from it. Chapter 1134. This wind thunder nether cloud was one of the three treasures of the underworld, along with the netherworld sword and the immortal nether flame. In theory, as long as one awakened the underworld fate spirit, one could summon the wind thunder nether cloud. Tang Ao had already awakened the underworld fate spirit for a long time, but Tang Ao had never summoned the wind thunder nether cloud. Seeing the iron bone wolf behind him that he couldn't shake off, Tang Ao decided to try again. While moving, Tang Ao communicated with the underworld fate spirit and then used it to sense the wind thunder nether cloud. A black mist-like door appeared in Tang Ao's consciousness. Tang Ao knew that this door was called the underworld door and could connect to the underworld. After Tang Ao's consciousness passed through this door, he could only feel endless darkness. In this darkness, Tang Ao saw a sword. This sword was exactly the same as the netherworld sword on Tang Ao's back. However, Tang Ao knew that the sword he was looking at was the real netherworld sword, while the one on his back was just a sword clone. However, because Tang Ao had the netherworld sword clone, Tang Ao could feel the netherworld sword in the endless darkness. Other than the netherworld sword, Tang Ao also saw many ghostly blue underworld flames. In the underworld, it was very easy to see underworld flames. Although underworld flames were very common, when underworld flames grew to the extreme, they were also very terrifying. The immortal nether flame of the three treasures of the underworld was formed when normal underworld flames grew to the extreme. Sensing Tang Ao's soul remembrance, an underworld flame flew in his direction. This underworld flame was the underworld flame that signed a soul contract with Tang Ao. Moreover, it was different from the other underworld flames. This underworld flame's glow was brighter than the other underworld flames and seemed to be full of spirituality. If the underworld flame wanted to grow into the immortal nether flame, there are three ways. The first way was to continuously devour other strange flames to grow. The second way was to continuously devour some special treasures, which was the flame's evolution. The third way was for the owner of the netherworld flame to comprehend the underworld Tao, using his own understanding of the laws to strengthen the contracted netherworld flame. Of these three paths, Tang Ao felt that the first two were more feasible, but the third one was a bit unreliable. However, Tang Ao didn't communicate with the underworld fate soul to see the netherworld sword and netherworld flame, so Tang Ao's soul remembrance continued to search the pitch-black space. But no matter how hard Tang Ao tried, he could only feel the netherworld flames and netherworld swords, as well as some strange netherworld creatures, but he could not feel the wind, thunder, nether clouds. Just as Tang Ao was about to give up, Tang Ao suddenly saw a purple lightning streak across the void of the underworld. This bolt of lightning was extremely fast, several times faster than any lightning bolt that Tang Ao had ever seen. Even with Tang Ao's powerful soul remembrance, when it streaked across the void, he could only catch a blurry shadow. Tang Ao's heart skipped a beat. Faintly, Tang Ao felt that this was the wind thunder nether cloud. Tang Ao's soul remembrance once again probed the void, and indeed, he found a shadow casually shuttling back and forth. This purple lightning constantly changed shape. Although the lightning was flickering, it was also constantly changing like a cloud. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao was already sure that this was the wind thunder nether cloud he was looking for. Immediately, Tang Ao hastily used the underworld fate soul to communicate with this wind thunder nether cloud. Under the communication of the underworld fate soul, Tang Ao could faintly feel that he had established a special connection with this wind thunder nether cloud. Chapter 1135. At this moment, there was no iron bone wolf behind him. At this moment, Tang Ao could only feel the scenery on both sides flying past him at an extremely fast speed. The fierce wind was like a steel blade blowing towards his face. Tang Ao had trained to the peak of astral reaching realm level 9 in his previous life. Therefore, Tang Ao knew that his current flying speed was not inferior to peak astral-reaching realm level 9 warriors. However, flying at such a high speed also consumed a lot of spirit power for Tang Ao. After flying for a short while, Tang Ao felt that all of the spirit power in his body had been used up. Even his sea of consciousness was aching. Tang Ao hurriedly put away the wind thunderdark cloud and landed on the ground. Even after flying for so long, Tang Ao still had not flown out of the range of the snowfield. This snowfield in the Xidigarda Cemetery was obviously not small. Otherwise, Tang Ao would not still be in the range of the snowfield after flying for so long. Tang Ao scanned the surroundings with his sole remembrance. After finding no danger, Tang Ao sat down where he was and started to recover his spirit power. As Tang Ao operated his martial art, strands of spirit power started to gather towards Tang Ao from all directions. After being absorbed by Tang Ao, these spirit powers started to circulate according to a special route. After one circulation, they all gathered in Tang Ao's dried-up spirit sea. As Tang Ao continued to absorb and refine the spirit chi, his dried-up spirit sea also started to fill up. After half an hour, Tang Ao opened his eyes. The spirit power that he had just consumed had already been completely recovered. This time, while being chased by the Ironbone Wolf, he had unexpectedly managed to connect with the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud. This made Tang Ao feel quite good. With the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud, if Tang Ao encountered a powerful enemy in the future, even if he could not beat them, he would still be able to run away. Tang Ao could clearly feel that this speed was not the limit of the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud. It was only because his cultivation was too low that the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud could only reach this speed. Tang Ao was really looking forward to when he returned to the peak of astral reaching realm level 9, and how fast his Wind Thunder Dark Cloud would be. After recovering his spiritual power, Tang Ao immediately returned to where he came from. Tang Ao didn't know if Chu Xiuhan had woken up yet. If she hadn't woken up yet, it would be very dangerous for her to stay in the cave. There was more than one Ironbone Wolf in the Xidigarda Cemetery. If one Ironbone Wolf could find the cave, it meant that there would be a second or third Ironbone Wolf. Thinking up to here, Tang Ao immediately summoned the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud and went back the way he came. Tang Ao ran as fast as lightning, and not long after, he returned to the cave. When Tang Ao returned to the cave, it was still a mess. However, Chu Xiuhan and Little Fox were still sleeping soundly. They didn't know what had happened. What surprised Tang Ao the most was that Little Fox, who was sleeping on the ground, had crawled into Chu Xiuhan's arms. It seemed to be a bit warmer. Looking at the little guy's face of enjoyment, Tang Ao was a bit envious of it. Right then, Chu Xiuhan's long eyelashes moved a bit, and then she opened her bright eyes. After Chu Xiuhan woke up, she patted her head. Right then, Chu Xiuhan only felt a bit dizzy. Obviously, the after-effects of the Sky Heart Soul wine had not completely faded. Strange, I seem to remember that I was drunk in the snow. Why am I here? Chu Xiuhan looked at Tang Ao blankly and asked. Tang Ao was confused by Chu Xiuhan's question. Tang Ao remembered that he was drunk first. Tang Ao always thought that it was Chu Xiuhan who brought him back. You didn't have the confidence to bring me back to the cave? Tang Ao asked confusedly. Chapter 11:36. Tang Ao looked at the little fox dancing on the ground and felt it was very comical. However, Tang Ao stared at it for a while, but still couldn't understand what the little fox was doing. I know, you're saying that you brought me and Tang Ao back to the cave, right? Chu Xiuhan was worthy of being the mistress of the little fox. After looking for a while, she understood what the little fox was trying to express. Hearing Chu Xiuhan's words, the little fox vigorously nodded its head and immediately extended its small claws. However, its actions caused Tang Ao and Chu Xiuhan to be confused. What's wrong? Chu Xiuhan immediately asked the little fox. The little fox looked at Tang Ao with a fawning expression. This time, Tang Ao instantly understood. This little fellow wanted to eat the spirit beast pill on his body. After understanding, Tang Ao gave a knowing smile and took out a spirit beast pill from his storage ring. Seeing this spirit beast pill, the little fox's spirit was instantly roused, and its eyes revealed a hopeful expression. Of course, Tang Ao didn't disappoint it and gave it the spirit beast pill. However, after the little fox received the spirit beast pill, it immediately ignored Tang Ao and jumped back into Chu Shuahan's embrace, causing Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan to be rather stunned. A few thousand miles away, Lei Ming, Mr. Yuda, and Mr. Yu were rushing in the direction of Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan. In Mr. Yuda's hand was a compass. On the compass was a drop of fresh blood. This drop of blood was left behind after Tang Ao was injured by Dark Wolf when he fought with Dark Wolf. After Dark Wolf and the others left, Mr. Yuda preserved this drop of blood. This tracking compass could use Tang Ao's blood to sense the approximate location of Tang Ao's main body. The approximate location wasn't very useful to normal people, but to martial artists, knowing the approximate location was enough. A martial artist's powerful soul remembrance could cover a very large area. As long as one knew the approximate location, they could carry out a carpet search and find whatever they wanted to find. Mr. Yuda, back at the Cloud Foothill auction, why didn't you take the Heavenly Star art from Tang Ao's hands? If you took action, even Black Crow markets, and you wouldn't be able to stop you. Lei Ming followed Mr. Yuda and Chu Shuahan as he asked. Mr. Yuda lightly laughed. Of course I'm not afraid of Inu. However, your big brother is already at the life and death 9th level. If you took the Heavenly Star art from Tang Ao, do you think you would still have a share? It's best for Tang Ao to keep the Heavenly Star art with him. As long as we find Tang Ao and retrieve the Heavenly Star art, everything will be fine. Of course, Tang Ao didn't know that thousands of miles away, Lei Ming and the other two were chasing in this direction. At this moment, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were rushing towards the cave under the snow. Although the Sky Heart Soul wine would make one drunk after drinking it, the two knew that it was a rare treasure. There were countless treasures in the Xitigarbis cemetery, and the Sky Heart Soul wine was considered a very good item among these treasures. When Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan arrived at the snowy plains from last time, they stopped in the distance. This was because, not far away, two groups of martial artists were fighting in the snow. The two groups of martial artists had similar strength, with each side having more than 10 people. Moreover, the weakest was at the 6th level of the Soul Ocean realm. In this kind of situation, Tang Ao, who was at the 4th level of the Soul Ocean realm, couldn't show himself. Chapter 1137. When Tang Ao used his Sky Polar pupils to investigate the golden box, his Sky Polar pupils were blocked by the restriction outside the box. This caused Tang Ao to be unable to see what was inside the box. Although they didn't know what was inside the box, Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan could guess that the box definitely contained an extraordinary treasure. Otherwise, in the Xitigarbis cemetery filled with all sorts of treasures, two groups of martial artists wouldn't be fighting over this box. What do we do? Now that the two groups are here, we have no way of entering the cave under the snow. Chu Shuahan looked at the two groups of martial artists and said softly, "That's not a problem. In a while, when they can't take it anymore, we'll be the Oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada." Tang Ao replied without hesitation. Tang Ao's words instantly caused Chu Shuahan to look down on him. However, Chu Shuahan understood that this was the rule of the martial artist world, so she didn't say anything. However, if Tang Ao really wanted to be the Oriole behind the mantis, Chu Shuahan definitely wouldn't go back. However, while Chu Shuahan was still thinking, Tang Ao laughed bitterly. This time, we can't be the Oriole, because at this moment, two martial artists were fighting all the way towards the place where Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were hiding. At this moment, Chu Shuahan and Tang Ao were hiding in a large tree. From afar, Soul Remembrance couldn't scan here, so they couldn't discover Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan. However, after coming close, Soul Remembrance could easily detect the two. However, what Tang Ao didn't expect was that the two martial artists didn't use Soul Remembrance to scan their surroundings the entire time they were fighting. They only occasionally threw 1 or 2 array flags at special locations. Looking at the location where the two threw the array flags, Tang Ao's eyes narrowed, and he said in a low voice, "Soul extinguishing array." From the positions of the two martial artists' array flags, Tang Ao could see that the two martial artists were indeed setting up a soul extinguishing array. On the surface, these two fellows seemed to be in charge of each other, but in reality, they were in cahoots with each other. At this moment, everyone on the snowy ground was fighting with their lives on the line. Naturally, no one noticed that there was something fishy going on between these two warriors. The range of this soul-extinguishing array is so big. Should we retreat further? Chu Shuahan wasn't very proficient in arrays, but she knew a little. At this moment, the tree that she and Tang Ao were hiding in was within the range of the soul-extinguishing array. Tang Ao rubbed his chin and said, "No need. Since these two have spent so much effort to set up the array, I might as well borrow it." After saying that, Tang Ao took out several array flags and threw them in a specific direction. In terms of cultivation, the current Tang Ao was still lacking. But if it was a competition of array Dao, Tang Ao was definitely at the level of their ancestor. Before they had finished setting up the soul-extinguishing array, Tang Ao had already taken control of it. It was just that the array that the two of them had set up was too crude, and Tang Ao was itching to try his hand at it, so he secretly modified the 5-fire soul extinguishing array. Previously, although the 5-fire soul extinguishing array was a 6th rank great array, its true power wasn't even comparable to a peak 5th rank array. However, after Tang Ao modified and strengthened it, the current 5-fire soul extinguishing array was a true high-grade 6th rank array. If such a peak rank array was matched with 5 powerful types of flames, then even if a life and death realm peak expert entered the array, he wouldn't be able to return. When these two martial artists finished setting up the array, sneakily, more than half of the martial artists who were fighting had already died. Chapter 1138. If Tang Ao was willing, as long as Tang Ao activated the 5-flame soul extinguishing array, no one in the array would be able to escape. However, Tang Ao had no enmity with these warriors, so Tang Ao wouldn't attack them for no reason. If these warriors left on their own, Tang Ao wouldn't make things difficult for them. However, Tang Ao knew that these two groups of warriors were already in a killing frenzy. At this time, it was obvious that neither side would back down. Tang Ao's guess was right. The two groups of warriors would not back down. However, what Tang Ao didn't expect was that the two groups of people, who were like fire and water, would suddenly attack the two warriors who were secretly arranging the array. These two people were also very stunned and didn't understand what was going on. Two little brats. Along the way, I already noticed that there was something wrong with our people. It turned out to be the two of you. A warrior on the left with a long saber in his hand and a hideous scar on his face looked at the two and grinned. "Brother Wong, these two people just arrange an array nearby. Why don't you and I join hands to deal with them first? Then we can discuss this box." Lu Mubai said to Wang Meng in a graceful manner. Wang Meng didn't reply to Lu Mubai's words. Instead, he looked at the two people who just arranged the array. Proficient in disguise, proficient in arrays, and then there are two of you. If I'm not wrong, you two are the Lu brothers, right? Hearing Wang Meng's words, the figures of the Lu brothers changed. From the two middle-aged men, they turned into two youths with a jade-like complexion. Moreover, whether it was the appearance of the brawny men or the youths, they were both natural, and there was no trace of them being fake. Tang Ao hid on a tree trunk and was amazed when he saw this scene. There were many methods of disguise. Some cultivation methods, martial skills, secret techniques, spirit treasures, and even pills could achieve this effect. However, Tang Ao was sure that the Liu brothers' disguise method was definitely the best he had seen so far. Even with the help of the sky polar eyes, Tang Ao couldn't figure out how the Liu brothers had disguised themselves. I didn't expect these people to be the ones fighting for the golden box. While Tang Ao was pondering, Chu Shuahan, who was beside Tang Ao, said lightly. It seemed that Chu Shuahan knew these people. You know these people? Tang Ao asked curiously. Chu Shuahan shook her head and said, I don't know them, but I've heard of them. The two people who were setting up the formation nearby were called the Liu brothers. The elder brother was called Liu Qing, and the younger brother was called Liu Qi. Although they looked harmless, they were notorious killers in the snowy plain. The two brothers are proficient in formations and disguise. They once slaughtered a middle-level tribe in one night and became famous in the ice and snow plain. Tang Ao nodded and asked, Who are the other three? At this moment, there were three other people besides the Liu brothers. Among them, the scar-faced man and the white-clothed youth were obviously not ordinary people. The remaining three are not good people. The warrior with the long blade is called Wang Mang. He's a ruthless bandit in the Yunlu mountain range. The Yunlu mountain range is boundless, and there are many places where people live. Many warriors often go to the Yunlu mountain range to train. Wang Mang leads a group of people in the Yunlu mountain range to hunt these warriors. Chapter 1139. Chu Shuahan rolled her eyes at Tang Ao. How could it not be? My great-grandfather personally went to the depths of the Yunlu Mountains 3 times to eliminate Wang Mang. However, Wang Mang was extremely cunning. My great-grandfather went there 3 times, but he could not find him. Not only my great-grandfather, but many experts from other forces also went there several times, but they all returned without success. After saying that, Chu Shuahan looked at the last 2 people without saying anything. Tang Ao looked at Chu Shuahan's expression and could not help but feel strange. Chu Shuahan did not know these last 2 people either. Don't tell me you don't recognize those 2 cultivators in azure. Of course I know, but Chu Shuahan seemed to have thought of something, and her expression was a bit strange. But what? The more Chu Shuahan acted like this, the more Tang Ao wanted to know. Could it be that these 2 warriors in green were more evil than Wang Mang and the other 2? Chu Shuahan clenched her teeth and said with a blush, Those 2 warriors in green are from the Green Flower Palace. Green Flower Palace? Tang Ao was surprised. Tang Ao had been in the snow plain for a long time, but this was the first time Tang Ao had heard of this force. Could it be that this force was so small that it was rarely mentioned? However, just by looking at their 4th level life and death realm cultivation, he knew that it was definitely not a small force. What is so special about this Green Flower Palace? Chu Shuahan was a bit confused. If female warriors did not know about the Green Flower Palace, it would be understandable. However, it was a place that many male warriors yearned for. How could Tang Ao not know about this place? However, looking at Tang Ao's confused expression, it seemed that he really did not know what this place was. Since you do not know, then I will not tell you. It is not good for you to know about this place. If you say so, then I want to know even more. Tang Ao was originally only a bit interested, but seeing Chu Shuahan's evasive manner, Tang Ao was full of curiosity about this Green Flower Palace. I will not tell you. Chu Shuahan curled her lips and did not say anything else. Chu Shuahan blushed every time the Green Flower Palace was mentioned because she had heard many evil rumors about the Green Flower Palace in the past. It was said that this Qinghua Palace was a special power that cultivated the Tao of dual cultivation. They often bewitched or captured beautiful girls to enter the Qinghua Palace in order to cultivate the Tao of dual cultivation. Tang Ao originally wanted to ask what was going on with the Qinghua Palace, but at this time, the Liu brothers, Wang Mang, and Liu Mubai of the Qinghua Palace suddenly attacked. Tang Ao saw one of the Liu brothers, Liu Qing, charging straight at Wang Mang. His movements were strange, and his attacks were extremely crafty. LV Qi, on the other hand, directly faced Lu Mubai of the Qinghua Palace. With Tang Ao's eyesight, he could naturally see that LV Qi was no match for the two from the Azure Flower Palace. However, what Tang Ao didn't expect was that the two from the Azure Flower Palace didn't join hands to deal with LV Qi instead. It was the other person who joined hands with LV Qi to deal with Lu Mubai. Song Chung, you bastard. Lu Mubai moved his body to the side to avoid the two short thorns in Song Chang's hands as he angrily cursed. The two were originally from the same sect, but in the face of a great enemy, Song Chung suddenly betrayed them. Chapter 1140. Chu Xuahan was shocked as well. Clearly, such a thing had never happened before. This was because the martial artist who had suddenly stood up had a piercing wound on his heart. With such a wound, not to mention a Sea of Souls realm martial artist, even a top astral-reaching realm martial artist would die without a doubt. But now this fatally wounded martial artist had actually stood up and was alive and kicking again. It was an extremely horrifying scene. Puppet. Tang Ao paused for a moment before immediately realizing the problem. This figure in linen clothes was not a real martial artist, but a puppet. Although this kind of method was rare, Tang Ao had encountered it once before. Tang Ao immediately used his Sky Extreme pupils to search the figure. Immediately, Tang Ao discovered that although the figure's structure was similar to a human's, it was really a puppet. However, what worried Tang Ao was that Tang Ao could not find the person controlling this puppet. In other words, this person had hidden even deeper than Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan. However, although this person had shocking methods, it would not be easy for him to get the golden box. The 5 martial artists on the snowy ground were fighting for the golden box. It was clearly impossible for this person to steal it under their noses. The puppet had only taken 3 steps before the long blade in Wang Mang's hand flew out. Boom! The long blade slashed across the puppet's neck like a lightning bolt. Suddenly, the upper half of the puppet's body exploded, and the golden box fell onto the snowy ground. Master Lu, you're looking down on me too much. Wang Mang, who was confronting Lu Qing, yelled out to the surroundings. Although he had seen through Master Lu's puppet plan, he had no idea where he was hiding. Tang Ao was also secretly searching for this Master Lu. However, even after scanning the surroundings with his soul remembrance, Tang Ao still could not find where this Master Lu was hiding. Who is this Master Lu? Tang Ao asked Chu Xuahan using soul remembrance. Chu Xuahan had secretly searched for Master Lu earlier, but she was a little worried when she could not find him. Master Lu's name is Lu Sanyuan. He is a special martial artist who is proficient in the puppet Dao. His whereabouts were extremely mysterious, and it was rumored that no one had ever seen his true face. However, there were many legends about him on the ice plain. I didn't expect that all these top-notch warriors would enter the Sitagarda cemetery this time. Compared to Tang Ao, who knew nothing about the Winterfrost Plain, Chu Xuahan obviously knew a lot about it. After listening to Chu Xuahan, Tang Ao suddenly had an idea. I know where Lu Sanyuan is hiding. Where is he hiding? Chu Xuahan asked curiously. In that cave under the snowy ground. Just now, Tang Ao had used his soul remembrance to scan the surroundings, but he hadn't carefully examined the cave under the snow. As expected, when Chu Xuahan and Tang Ao's soul remembrance probed into the cave dwelling, they saw a black-robed man sitting cross-legged at the entrance of the cave dwelling. Behind the black-robed man stood 2 puppets. The black-robed man's soul remembrance was extremely sensitive. When Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan's soul remembrance scanned the ground, the black-robed man instantly raised his head and glanced at where Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan were hiding. Chapter 1141. Tang Ao nodded towards Chu Xuahan. If the two suddenly retreated now, it would most likely cause Lu Sunyuan's group to chase after them. Whether it was the golden box or the cave under the snow, they were obviously important secrets. Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan knew these 2 secrets, and they were not very powerful. It would be strange if Wang Mang and his group would let Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan leave. After Lu Sanyuan finished speaking, Wang Mang did not believe him at all. If Lu Sanyuan had been hiding nearby, it would have been understandable if Wang Mang hadn't discovered him. But if someone else had been hiding nearby and Wang Mang hadn't discovered them, then Wang Mang wouldn't be in this position today. However, under Wang Mang's questioning gaze, Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan still walked out. Seeing the two, Wang Mang was surprised at first. But after seeing that Tang Ao was only at the Sea of Souls realm and Chu Xuahan was only at the first level of the life and death realm, Wang Mang ignored them. The Holy Mountain Order in this box is fake. You don't have to fight over it. After Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan appeared, Lu Sunyuan's eyes flashed with suspicion as he pointed at the golden box that took away his puppet. Bullshit! If this Holy Mountain Order was fake, why would you, Lu Sanyuan, come here? After Lu Sanyuan said that the Holy Mountain Order was fake, Wang Mang immediately said angrily. Tang Ao and Chu Xuahan then realized that the golden box actually contained the Holy Mountain Order. Tang Ao did not know much about the Xitigarbis Cemetery, but Tang Ao had heard of the most precious Holy Mountain Order in the Xitigarbis Cemetery. There was a holy mountain in the 9th area of the Xitigarbis Cemetery. This mountain was filled with treasures, but there was a very powerful enchantment around the mountain. No warrior could enter the mountain by force. At the foot of the mountain, there were 72 doors. These doors could be opened with the Holy Mountain Order, allowing one to enter the mountain. It was precisely because this golden box contained a divine mountain token that the Lu brothers, Wang Mang, Lu Mubai, and Song Chung had fought their way here. But now, Lu Sanyuan was telling them that the Sacred Mountain Order was fake. After knowing that the golden box contained the Sacred Mountain token, Tang Ao was somewhat tempted. Although these people's cultivation bases were much higher than his, they were all within the range of the Five-Flame Soul extinguishing formation. Tang Ao did not seem to pose any threat, but in reality, Tang Ao, who controlled the Five-Fire Soul extinguishing array, was the strongest person on the snowy ground. If the golden box really contained the Sacred Mountain token, Tang Ao wouldn't mind taking it for himself. However, if what Lu Sanyuan said was true, that the Shengshan Order in the golden box was fake, then there was no need for Tang Ao to expose the Five-Fire Soul extinguishing formation. Master Lu Sanyuan, how do you know that the Sacred Mountain Order is fake? This time, Lu Mubai was the one who asked the question. He was skeptical of Lu Sunyuan's words. The Sacred Mountain Order has a special connection with the Sacred Mountain. Once the restriction is broken, it will automatically fly to the Sacred Mountain. Therefore, the Sacred Mountain Order must be stored in a special treasure. This jade box is a good treasure, and it is very convincing to use it to store the Sacred Mountain Order. It's just that the Sacred Mountain Order inside is fake. As Lu Sanyuan spoke, he controlled the incomplete puppet that had half of its body smashed by Wang Mang's blade to stagger towards the crowd. After arriving in the middle of the crowd, Lu Sanyuan opened the jade box in front of everyone. Immediately, a dazzling golden token lay quietly in the jade box. Seeing this token, Wang Mang and the others' eyes flashed with eagerness. Lu Qi couldn't help but want to snatch it, but he pulled Lu Qing back. Chapter 1142. After opening the jade box in front of Tang Ao and the others, Lu Sanyuan didn't touch the token. Instead, two cyan spirit blades shot out from his fingers and broke the restriction on the token. However, after Lu Sanyuan broke the restriction on the token, the Sacred Mountain token didn't seem to have any intention of flying towards the Sacred Mountain. This Sacred Mountain token is actually fake. Wang Mang's eyes were filled with disbelief. Lu Mubai revealed a pondering expression. He seemed to be thinking about the possibility of the Sacred Mountain token being swapped midway. The Lu brothers vigilantly surrounded Lu Sanyuan. From beginning to end, only Lu Sanyuan touched the Sacred Mountain token. If the Sacred Mountain token was really swapped, then the real Sacred Mountain token could only be on Lu Sanyuan. At this moment, the fake Sacred Mountain token suddenly emitted a terrifying fluctuation. After feeling this fluctuation, Lu Sanyuan instantly blasted out with his palm and sent the fake Sacred Mountain token flying into the distance. Immediately after, a terrifying explosion rang out and a snowy peak was instantly flattened. Snow and ice filled the sky, and the spiritual energy in the air became chaotic. After the fake Sacred Mountain token exploded, Wang Mang's eyes were filled with disappointment. After entering the Xitigarbis cemetery, he had been looking for this Sacred Mountain token, but it turned out to be a fake. Lu Mubai still didn't say anything. No one knew what he was thinking. Song Cheng's mouth moved as if he wanted to say something to Lu Mubai, but he didn't say anything in the end. The Lu brothers were still surrounding Lu Sanyuan. The two clearly believed that the Sacred Mountain token was on Lu Sanyuan. Tang Ao silently looked at their expressions. Tang Ao faintly felt that this Sacred Mountain token was most likely real, but it had been swapped at some point. Lu Sanyuan, hand over the Sacred Mountain token, and we brothers will let you go. You can fool others, but don't try to fool us brothers. In Lu Qi's hand, there was a dagger that emitted a cold light. Tang Ao could tell that this dagger was a Grade 1 divine weapon. Lu Sanyuan smiled faintly. I don't have the Sacred Mountain order on me, but I have something good to tell you all. Lu Sunyuan's expression didn't change much. The Lu brothers weren't easy to deal with, but how could he, Lu Sanyuan, be easy to deal with? I wonder what good news Master Lu has to tell us. Although Tang Ao had already guessed that Lu Sanyuan would most likely make a fuss about the cave dwelling under the snowy ground, Tang Ao still asked. When Tang Ao discovered Lu Sanyuan was sitting cross-legged at the entrance of the cave. It was highly likely that Lu Sanyuan had already entered the cave, so Tang Ao wanted to confirm it. A straightforward person doesn't beat around the bush. Did you all see the cave dwelling under the snowy ground? Lu Sanyuan asked as he looked around. So what if we saw it? Wang Mang had indeed discovered the cave dwelling under the snowy ground when he came here, but he thought that everyone's attention was on the Sacred Mountain order, so he secretly thought of a way to come back and take a look at the cave dwelling after everyone left. Now it seemed that Wang Mang wasn't the only one with this idea. This cave dwelling hides a secret world. In the innermost part, there's a stone door sealed by the 7-star array altar, so we need 7 people to enter the cave and work together to open the sealed door. I've obtained a lot of benefits in the cave dwelling, so I believe that the things behind the 7-star array altar will not disappoint you all. Lu Sanyuan said as he took out a bottle of Heavenly Heart Soul wine. Chapter 1143. Master Lu, what is this? Lu Mubai looked at the small emerald jade bottle and asked. Heart of Heavenly Soul Cleansing Wine. Lu Sanyuan was obviously a knowledgeable person. He immediately knew the name of the Heart of Heavenly Soul Cleansing Wine. Seeing the emerald jade bottle in Lu Sunyuan's hand, Tang Ao was secretly unhappy. Because Lu Sanyuan had been in the cave for so long, the Heaven Heart Soul wine had obviously been cleaned out by Lu Sanyuan. Lu Sanyuan, you said you need 7 people, but there are 8 of us here. What should we do? Although Wang Mang coveted the Heaven Heart Soul wine in Lu Sunyuan's hands, he knew that Lu Sanyuan would definitely not give it to him. Wang Mang felt that it was not the right time to snatch it from Lu Sunyuan's hands. At least, he had to break that 7-star formation altar first. What's so hard about that? You, Wang Mang, have a blood knife that kills a person. You see who deserves to die, just kill him. Lu Mubai said with a bit of sarcasm. Song Chung instantly jumped up, and his claws were like sharp steel hooks, grabbing towards Tang Ao's throat. This attack was as fast as lightning. If he was caught, Tang Ao would definitely die. Lu Sanyuan had already made it very clear that they only needed 7 people to go to the 7-star formation altar. Among the 8 people here, Tang Ao, who was at the 4th level of the Sea of Souls realm, was the weakest. Song Chung, who was at the early stage of the first level of the life and death realm, was the second weakest. If Tang Ao didn't die, then he Song Chung would. Although Tang Ao's cultivation was low, he was obviously on the same side as Chu Shuahan. Originally, he and Lu Mubai were also working together, but not long ago, he had a falling out with Lu Mubai. If Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan worked together against him, then he would definitely die. However, before Song Cheng's sharp claws could reach Tang Ao, they were blocked by Lu Sanyuan. He has the sky polar eyes. He doesn't deserve to die. Lu Sanyuan slapped Song Cheng's hand away and took a step back. Seeing this scene, the Liu brothers also came together. Wang Meng, on the other hand, stood there indifferently. Clearly, he was confident that he wouldn't be the one to die. Senior brother Lu, why don't we join forces against the enemy? Song Cheng knew that he was weak now. If no one took action to kill Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan would definitely attack him. Junior brother, there is no need to belittle yourself. There are 8 people here and 1 person died. The one who died might not be you. Lu Mubai said as he took a step back. Master Lu, I don't know the situation in the cave house down there. How about I leave now? Song Chung knew that the most powerful person here was this Lu Sanyuan, and he was also the one in charge this time. As long as Lu Sanyuan nodded, even if he couldn't enter the cave house to get a share, it would not be a problem for him to leave this place. Of course, I have no objections. Before Lu Sanyuan could finish his words, Song Chung suddenly attacked Chu Shuahan. Originally, Song Chung wanted to kill Tang Ao the most. Tang Ao was only at the Sea of Souls realm, so Song Chung was confident that he could kill Tang Ao in one move. However, after Lu Sanyuan wanted to protect Tang Ao, Song Chung could only choose Chu Shuahan, who was slightly stronger than him. Song Chung obviously didn't want to give up on this kind of cave house. Lu Sanyuan only found the Sky Heart Soul wine in the outer area, so it was hard for Song Chung to imagine what kind of treasure there was in the depths of the cave house. The moment Song Cheng's Iron Claw attacked, Chu Shuahan didn't have time to react. Her cultivation was higher than Song Chung, but her battle power was much weaker. Since she started cultivating, Chu Shuahan spent most of her time learning alchemy in the medicine refining valley. She rarely fought with other warriors. Therefore, when Song Chung suddenly attacked, Chu Shuahan was shocked. Just when Chu Shuahan saw Song Cheng's sharp claws getting closer and closer to her, Tang Ao suddenly grabbed Chu Shuahan's waist. Then, Tang Ao used the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud to quickly carry her and flashed 300 feet away. Chapter 1144. After Tang Ao put Chu Shuahan down, Chu Shuahan also recovered from the absent-mindedness. Although she rarely fought with other warriors, it did not mean that she had no fighting power at all. As the great-granddaughter of the old medicine king, although Chu Shuahan was not good at fighting, she was still a peak life and death realm first-stage warrior. Dealing with Song Chung, who was at the early life and death realm, was not a problem. Chu Shuahan took out 2 long swords from her storage ring and stood side by side with Tang Ao. At this moment, Tang Ao was a little hesitant. If it was just him and Chu Shuahan, although they could take down Song Chung, it would take a lot of effort. Moreover, Song Chung was not alone here. If they were to fight with Song Chung and the other guys intervened, it would be very troublesome. Now that everyone was within the range of the 5 Flame Soul Extinguishing Array, Tang Ao could directly activate the 5 Flame Soul Extinguishing Array to kill Song Chung. But then the 5 Flame Soul Extinguishing Array would be exposed. After seeing Lu Sunyuan's means, Tang Ao mainly wanted to use the 5 Flame Soul Extinguishing Array to deal with Lu Sanyuan. While Tang Ao was thinking, Song Cheng's claws were like hooks, once again pouncing over. Song Chung leaped into the air like a falcon soaring in the sky, waiting for an opportunity to pounce on its prey and swooping down for the kill. The momentum of this attack was not great, but it was as fast as lightning, leaving behind a series of afterimages in midair. Facing such an attack from Song Chung, Chu Shuahan was a little afraid, but she still stood firmly with Tang Ao. Moreover, when Song Cheng's attack came, Chu Shuihan suddenly took a step forward, both swords stabbing toward Song Cheng. Although she was afraid of Song Cheng, Chu Shuihan knew that the gap between Tang Ao and Song Cheng's cultivation was too big. No matter how capable Tang Ao was, he could not block Song Cheng's attack head-on. But what Chu Shuihan did not expect was that when she made up her mind to rush out, her slender waist was hugged by Tang Ao again. Although Song Cheng's speed was fast compared to the Wind Thunder Nether Cloud, it was far inferior. Moreover, Tang Ao hadn't pushed the speed of the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud to the limit. Everyone here was stronger than him and Chu Shuihan. Although these people didn't intervene, he still had to be cautious. After carrying Chu Shuihan away, Tang Ao immediately summoned the Green Lotus Sword Soul. In fact, with such a huge difference in cultivation level, Tang Ao knew that summoning the Azure Lotus Sword Soul was useless. Even if he summoned the Underworld Life Soul, he might not be able to gain an advantage over Song Cheng. After Tang Ao avoided Song Cheng's attack with Chu Shuihan in his arms, Song Cheng turned around and attacked Tang Ao and Chu Shuihan again. Although Song Cheng's speed was even faster this time, Tang Ao was delighted. Because Tang Ao saw that Song Cheng had secretly taken out a Space Jade Talisman and activated it. Obviously, Song Cheng didn't dare to stay here any longer. The reason why he attacked so fiercely was to mislead Lu, Sanyuan, and the others, and then find a chance to escape. After thinking it through, Tang Ao immediately used the 7-kill Holy Way. 7 green lotus swords crisscrossed, turning into 7 dazzling streams of light that blasted towards Song Cheng. The power wasn't great, but the momentum was shocking. It was as if Tang Ao was giving it his all to launch his last attack. Song Cheng was also shocked by Tang Ao's attack that had the power of lightning, but he immediately sneered. A white light flashed, and Song Cheng was teleported away by the Space Jade Talisman in front of everyone. Chapter 1145. Are you okay? Chu Shuihan took out a recovery pill and gave it to Tang Ao as she asked with concern. Although she had decided to fight Song Cheng head-on, Chu Shuihan knew that she wasn't Song Cheng's opponent since she wasn't adept at fighting. Tang Ao took the pill and swallowed it before shaking his head. Okay, now we have enough people. Follow me. After Song Cheng escaped, Lu Sanyuan didn't want to waste a second. There were many experts that entered Xidagarba's cemetery this time. Although Lu Sanyuan was powerful, he didn't think he was invincible in Xidagarba's cemetery. Lei Lingyun, who killed Song Yu at the Pill Refining Conference, was far stronger than him. No one objected to Lu Sunyuan's words. Under Lu Sunyuan's lead, Tang Ao and the others arrived at the cave under the snow. When they were observing from above, Tang Ao thought it was a cave. However, when they actually arrived, Tang Ao discovered that it wasn't a cave. It was clearly a broken palace. Tang Ao's soul remembrance swept a room to the side. There were 2 empty shelves. As for the Heavenly Heart Soul wine on the shelves, Tang Ao didn't need to think to know that it had already been taken away by Lu Sanyuan. This is a thunder crystal rock. Wang Meng, who was walking on the left, suddenly punched the wall and immediately took out a rock that glowed with a serene blue light. Tang Ao sighed in his heart. Wang Meng's soul remembrance was powerful. This thunder crystal rock was hidden in the wall, and the nearby walls had restrictions that isolated soul remembrance. Although Tang Ao's soul remembrance also found this thunder crystal rock, Tang Ao had a soul sea, so his soul remembrance was far superior to normal martial artists. According to Tang Ao's thoughts, normal martial artists would probably need to be at the 6th level of the life and death realm before their soul remembrance could discover the thunder crystal rock behind the wall. Lu Sanyuan had been here a long time ago, and he had even taken away all of the Skyheart's soul cleansing wine. However, the thunder crystal stones in the wall were fine, which meant that even Lu Sanyuan, who was at the 5th layer of life and death realm, could not find them. Sure enough, after Wang Mang took out the thunder crystal, Lu Sanyuan looked at Tang Ao. "Little friend Tang Ao, please lend me your sky polarity eyes to see if there are any other treasures in this palace." Of course, young friend Tang Ao can get an extra 10% of the treasures found. How about we split the rest evenly? After Lu Sanyuan arrived at the dilapidated palace, he also searched for a long time. However, apart from the Heaven Heart soul-cleansing wine stored in the secret chamber, Lu Sanyuan did not find anything else. Lu Sanyuan guessed that it wasn't that there was nothing else in the palace, but that his soul remembrance was ordinary and could not discover these treasures. Therefore, after discovering Tang Ao's sky polarity eyes, Lu Sanyuan allowed Tang Ao to follow them into the palace. Tang Ao did not refuse. Wang Mang could use his soul remembrance to discover the thunder crystal stones in the wall. If he said that he could not find anything with his sky polarity eyes, no one would believe him. Immediately, Tang Ao used his sky polarity eyes to scan his surroundings. Shortly after, Tang Ao saw many thunder crystal stones on the surrounding walls. Moreover, Tang Ao discovered that these thunder crystal stones were arranged according to a special position. This position was a lightning guiding array. Tang Ao was shocked because these thunder crystal stones were not hidden in the wall for no reason. Instead, they were arranged according to the position of the lightning guiding array. Chapter 1146. The Thunder Crystal Rock was a rank 1 immortal material, and it was a rare treasure for martial artists that cultivated thunder element arts. Tang Ao counted carefully and found that this array used a total of 81 Thunder Crystal Rocks. After finding out the locations of the Thunder Crystal Rocks, Tang Ao's blade light flew out and made 80 marks on the surrounding walls. Dig into the walls according to my marks. Behind each mark is a Thunder Crystal Rock. After saying that, Tang Ao ignored everyone's confused looks and walked towards one of the walls. Wait, the walls here are not simple. If there is nothing behind them, wouldn't it be a waste of everyone's time? Wang Mang had just blown open this wall, so he knew that the walls in this palace could not be compared to normal walls. If you don't believe me, just wait for us on the side. Tang Ao turned around and said as he took out an explosion spell. Tang Ao knew that Wang Mang was right. There was a special protection on the walls here, and it would not be easy to break it open with brute force. The wall that Wang Mang had blown open was also because of his good luck. For some reason, the restriction on that wall had weakened a lot, and that Thunder Crystal Rock was only 3 inches behind the wall. However, the rest of the Thunder Crystal stones weren't that easy to obtain. This was because the restrictions on the other walls weren't damaged. Moreover, these restrictions were very complex. Even if Tang Ao wanted to break these restrictions, he wouldn't be able to do it in a short time. Therefore, Tang Ao decided to use the spell to blow open the wall. Otherwise, with his cultivation of the 4th level of the Sea of Souls realm, the Thunder Crystal Rocks in the wall would not have anything to do with him. As for Tang Ao's words, Lu Sanyuan did not doubt them at all. Lu Sanyuan also walked to the nearest mark and threw out a punch. Lu Sanyuan's punch did not seem to be as powerful as Wang Mang's, but when it hit the wall, a formless wave suddenly spread out, and all the rocks around were blown away by Lu Sanyuan's fist energy. However, such a ferocious punch only caused cracks to appear on the dilapidated walls of the palace. It did not penetrate the walls and reveal the thunder crystal hidden in the walls. Lu Sanyuan looked at the wall in surprise. Although his punch didn't break the wall, he didn't suspect that Tang Ao was lying. Bang! After Lu Sanyuan made his move, Tang Ao also activated his first explosive talisman. After the explosion talisman exploded, a hole immediately appeared in the wall. Although Tang Ao knew that the restrictions on the wall were weak, Tang Ao didn't deliberately choose these places to dig out the thunder crystal stones. Because the power of a grade 6 explosion talisman was enough to break this restriction, Tang Ao didn't need to use it again. Although activating the explosion talisman required some time, Tang Ao's mining speed was the fastest among the 7 of them. While the others were still working hard on the wall, Tang Ao had already taken out the first undercrystal stone and put it away. Not long after, another explosion came from the palace. Immediately after, Tang Ao took out the second thunder crystal stone. After Tang Ao took out the second thunder crystal stone, Lu Sanyuan finally broke the wall in front of him and took out the first thunder crystal stone. Brother Tang Ao, I wonder if you can sell me a few of your explosion talismans. The price is negotiable. Lu Mubai didn't make a move. When he saw Tang Ao easily take out 2 thunder crystal stones with the explosion talisman, he smiled and asked Tang Ao, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."